What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Fantasy Files podcast, where we talk about our favorite fantasy series and topics. We are your co-hosts, Spencer and Gabe, joined by Ryan Cahill, Holly Tinsley, Thomas Howard Riley, and Krystle Matar. I'll introduce them properly in just a moment, but basically, what we're doing today is just hanging out with some of our favorite authors with some drinks, and talking about anything from how they carefully and masterfully craft their fantasy worlds to why Cartoon Network doesn't play episodes of the Flintstones anymore. We also have a fun little game that we'll play later on that I definitely didn't steal from Jimmy Fallon. If you enjoy our content, please hit those like and subscribe buttons down below and hit the little bell icon to combat the evil YouTube algorithm overlords and get notified whenever our new content drops. You can also follow us on Twitter at Files Fantasy if you like tweets about fantasy books and fart jokes. Also, as a side note, today is my birthday and I could not ask for a better group of people to spend it with. So thank you all sincerely for being here today. With all that out of the way, let's introduce our guests and the books that they've written.
I think that's starting with me. I always find it funny when people try to pronounce my name outside of Ireland, because it's either Cahill or like a really strong over pronunciation of the like, I want to get it right. It's Cahill. But yeah, you got it. Yeah, Ryan Cahill. My debut is A Blood and Fire. It came out just over a year and a few days ago. Second book came out in December. Novella came out 6 months previous to the second book. That was a complicated way of saying that. It's classic epic fantasy. New novella comes out in about 2 months, and then the third book comes out in about 4 or 5 months, hopefully. So.
Oh, and where can people follow you?
On the streets. You just got to find me first. Yeah, it's fine. You just got to come to Middle Earth, Balinor, and the Undying Lands. You're fine. Nah, Twitter would be preferable, maybe not the streets. Twitter or my website. My website, www.ryancalauthor.com, and that has a free download of the fall as well. So free novella. I need to have a whiskey. I'm going to be the only one who's sober on this spot. I'm not okay with it. So.
You should grab one.
Fucking 8 a.m. I'm not pouring like you pour.
No. Oh my God.
Too much of a commitment.
All right, who's next? Holly?
Hi, I'm Holly Tinsley. It is not 8 o'clock in the morning here, so I am currently enjoying a glass of the most Grimdark of all the drinks, which is a nice pink gin, which goes really well with my dark, mysterious aesthetic, I feel. I am the author of We Men of Ash and Shadow, which is the first book in the Vanguard Chronicles. It's currently an SBF BO 7 finalist. It is available on Amazon, and it's also available as an audiobook as well. And it's for people who like Peaky Blinders, Gangs of New York, Assassin's Creed, and just any stories where grim, dark people do grim, dark deeds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was like a really cool poem.
Grim, dark people doing grim, dark deeds. Where can people follow you, Holly?
They can follow me on Twitter, which is where I spend most of the time I'm meant to be working. And I also have a website which I haven't updated recently, but I promise I will get onto it because I keep saying I'm going to, and that is HL Tinsley Writes.
Awesome.
Greetings, I'm Thomas Howard Riley. I write epic fantasy. I'm the author of We Break Immortals, this chunky book right here. It's epic, dark fantasy. Basically, it's like if you took Wheel of Time mixed with CSI, mixed with Raiders of the Lost Ark, mixed with the X-Men, but make it rated R. That would be kind of the kind of where the story elements are. Tone wise, going to like a Marvel reference, if you took like the film Logan and the film Deadpool and smashed them together and made that the tone of your Avengers movie, that would be
that everyone wants to see
what this would be.
Yeah.
And it's available on Amazon, both in physical and ebook form. And you can follow me at thomashowardriley.com, where I do all kinds of funny things on my website. You can look up articles, other world building tips, links to various things. And then I spend as much time as I'm able to on Twitter as at Ornithopteryx.
That's how you pronounce that.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. Pronounce that again.
It's been so long.
Oh, it's part Ornithopter, part Archaeopteryx. Put them together.
Yeah, naturally.
Ornithopteryx.
Yeah, completely. It all makes sense now. Yeah.
I have to live up to my mad scientist moniker in all forms, including my Twitter handle.
That's true. Yeah.
I'm known for Frankensteining everything together.
It's like saying horny without the H.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the fun in that? Oh, my chair.
Okay. Yeah, Krystle.
Oh, I guess it's my turn.
Yeah.
Okay, my name is Krystle Matar. My debut is Legacy of the Brightwash. I'm calling it Romantic Grimdark because, like Holly, I took a lot of influence from Gangs of New York, but also, they bang. So my favorite negative review complained about how much sex there was in the book, and I wear that as a badge of honor. But also, they do grimdark things to each other. Well, not the main couple, but they do grimdark things to other people. I totally lost my train of thought already.
So you're saying people would enjoy your book if they're horny and they like murder.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much.
I put the straddling in genre
yes. Factual. Yes.
I feel like when me and Krystle watch Gangs of New York, we watch two very different movies somehow.
Yeah.
There's sex in that movie, Holly. Come on.
That's your new banner, Krystle.
Don't bring the line about.
You gotta say putting the straddling in genre straddling, and that's right.
Exactly. Yeah. I think in my Twitter profile right now it says I like smooching and stabbing. So.
This is what happens when romance straddles grimdark.
Yeah.
There's lots of straddling, I promise.
Yep. There you go.
I was wondering how long we were going to get into this episode before Krystle started making, sex jokes and stuff. And I don't know, 5 minutes?
No, come on, you all introduce yourselves.
I thought I was going to be good, but I'm after having 3 or 4 sips of whiskey, and I feel like going on a night out right now. So
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And as a tribute to Ryan, I'm drinking Guinness.
Oh, awesome!
I don't actually like Guinness that much.
Oh, come on! I tried my best, man.
I appreciate the effort.
Yeah.
I was celebrating our twinness, you jerk.
I was expecting a keg. I was expecting a keg and a tap. I don't know. You're drinking it from a can.
I didn't even know
only
Guinness
so
came
much
in a can.
There's only so much room in this
I'm
house.
currently trying to convince Amy to let me put a keg and a tap into the deck outside and put the keg in the garage downstairs and funnel it up. It's going to be a while.
We have plans. We have plans for a beer garden when we build. So,
yep,
kegs.
It's cost effective.
Yeah, the amount we drink. Yeah, buy it in bulk.
All right, so usually at the beginning of our episodes, we talk about what we've been reading, but most of you guys are writing right now. So have any of you guys been able to read anything lately?
Most of my reading is beta reading for other writers. So what I'm reading right now it's called Through Dreams So Dark by Angela Board. It'll be coming out hopefully this year. And it's like a portal fantasy mixed with a Cold War spy thriller. And it's fantastic. And I'm really excited for her to get further along so that she can drop the cover on people and start marketing that book, because it's really good. So
nice.
Oh. Where do you find the time to beta read? Even doing this, I'm just like, I'm kind of sitting here going, I should be writing.
Well, the thing about a good beta read is like you can kind of problem solve your own work at the same time, where it's like, if you see something come up in their world and you know you do it too, it's easier to help someone else solve their problem. And then once you've done that, you can like reverse it and use it to solve your own problems.
Like it's revision practice. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
so usually a lot of my beta reading energy is when I'm stuck and I'm frustrated. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to focus on somebody else and help. And then as I'm going through that process with them, I have time for things to stew in the background, and then I can go fix my own problems instead of like sitting at the desk doing nothing.
I definitely sympathize with you though, Ryan, about finding the time. It is very hard for me to find time to read for anything because, you know, writing and having a pesky job and having to inconveniently raise a small child is just, you know.
See, that's where you went wrong. You're putting effort in. You're putting effort in. The secret is just to let them run feral and then you have time to write. See,
like you could have said that without like insulting your child. Immediately raising the child.
Clearly you don't have children, Ryan. Once you have some, you realize it's okay to insult them. They deserve it.
I had to explain to Amy, we're going off a tangent very quickly. But I had to explain to my fiance Amy at the start, because I curse all the time. She's from New Zealand and her family are British, and they do not curse a lot. I know everyone in Britain doesn't curse a lot, but we use the word British in a sense of they're very British, like very, very, you know, proper. And she came into my own house. My own mom tells me to go fuck myself. Like if I tell her like, oh, don't put that over there, she'll go fuck yourself. I was like. So yeah,
different parenting styles.
Yeah. Get off your fucking ass and go clean your shit up.
Yeah.
I'll always remember the day your mom came on Twitter to swear at you, and it was like
she still does it. She's
of motherhood.
She's trying to go viral.
Wait, what?
I love her.
Like, I'll get like text messages off her being like, I'm going viral. I'm like, you have 3 likes, man. Oh, she's always lurking, just like
waiting to tell you to go fuck yourself.
She was on her work account.
I love her so much.
Oh,
wow.
Fucking hell. Yeah, back to reading. I think I'll go. I'm currently reading. I tried to set aside because I have the same issues as you, Tom, all the time. Now I'm doing this full time now, but I was doing so much when it wasn't full time that there's not actually that much of a difference. I just sleep more now. But I'm trying to. Yeah, I know.
You weirdo.
4 to 5 hours a night. It's more than I used to get. But I'm listening to Krystle at the minute. I try to set aside like an hour to 2 hours to read each day now, kind of taking that as like research. And I'll just go for a walk and put on a podcast. But the issue is I have the attention span of a fucking ADHD goldfish. So it's a bit of an issue when you're trying to listen to like crazy epic fantasy, because Krystle has a lot of shit in it. So I'll be walking along and you miss like 5 minutes and all of a sudden you don't have a fucking clue what's going on. I'm going to have to rewind. 10 minutes takes me half an hour to listen to. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Comes with practice, I guess. Do you usually go for audiobooks or do you typically read physical?
I almost always exclusively read physical, but I have to do the audiobook now because I have no choice, because I don't have the time and I trying to read. So I have to like, even like when I'm going to the gym now, I have to have audiobook instead of music. So it's kind of weird when you're trying to do something high intensity and you're listening to kind of like this slow, melancholy thing. Says, oh God, okay, there's horrible things happening right now, but I got to keep going.
Yeah, Cradle is a book that I think, or a series that I think Gabe would really like, because from what I've heard, it's like anime, but in a fantasy. Like everybody who reads it basically says that it's like the most anime kind of book that they've ever read. And
I'm only through like the first 10 or 11 chapters. So I have a Discord, and all the people in Discord kept asking me what I was reading. So I said we set up like a read with Ryan kind of thing. So they can read whatever books the author's reading at the same time. So we said we'd set this up so we're all reading this at the same time, which is kind of cool. But I'm only on like chapter 10 or 11, and it definitely has those vibes. It's really cool. It's really interesting. It's total opposite to epic fantasy in that like it's really grounded. The scope is narrowed so much, at least at the minute. For the first book, it's quite focused on this one area, this one village, and this one kind of family that's very, very different to what I'm used to. But it's really, really good. I'm really enjoying it.
For sure. Yeah, it's been interesting seeing people just get completely hooked on that series. You'll see a tweet one day that's like, "Oh, I'm starting Cradle today, gonna see what all the hype is about," and then in like a week they're on like book 8, and it's like,
sold
all right.
1 million copies last year.
Well, yeah.
Wow.
What about you, Holly? Have you been reading anything lately?
Well, I started off this year and I kind of made this promise that I was going to really try to commit to reading books and finishing them, because I have this thing. I have terrible like problems with attention and focus, and also I'm a bit lazy, and just I have like book commitment phobia, where what happens is I end up starting about 25-30 books at the same time and just don't finish them. I enjoy them, but I can't help myself. Like I'll start with one book and then another walks by and I'm just like, oh, hello. So this year I've tried to behave myself. So at the moment I only have about 7 at the moment that I'm currently reading, and some of them I've got past the 50% mark. So I'm feeling very proud of myself.
Did you say
at the moment?
I love that you did like the look back thing. Like I've had that. I walk past bookshops sometimes. I walk past like a secondhand bookshop, and Amy's like, "I'm just so happy that it's not a woman." Like, I'm like, "Oh, damn."
It's like that meme with the guy that's like looking back at the other lady.
Exactly it.
Exactly.
And like his girlfriend is labeled like current read.
I mean, the good thing is that if I ever buy someone's book, if I read your book in less than 3 months, then you know that that's like a really, really good book. It's like the mark of approval is if I can read it in under 12 weeks. So, but
okay.
But yeah, I'm similar to Krystle at the moment. I've got quite a few that are like beta reads and like ARC reads and things like that. So I've kind of made a commitment to people to do read these books. So those ones I got to get finished really. So I need to focus.
You guys are so much better than I am. I can't take any of those on because I never end up getting to them in time because I just lose all my focus on something else. And I feel so bad that like I end up like narrowing my whole life to finish this one book, and I'm like, I'll get there.
To be fair, it's got to the point where when people contact me and say, you know, can you beta read this or can you have an art copy? I'm like, yeah, that's absolutely fine. I'd love to read it. However, disclaimer, you won't get a review until 2035.
Yeah.
Well, but a few people ask me to blurb the book, and I'm like, I have to read the book before I blurb it. And it's like, it could be a very long time.
Holly, did you say you're currently reading 7 books? Is that what you said you have on your?
I think about 7. It might be 6 at the moment. But I know that I've got one which is 60% through, which is P.L. Stewart's new one, which is the follow-up to A Drowned Kingdom, which I believe is on pre-order now. I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's the way it is. Yeah. So yeah, that one I'm probably going to try and get finished over the next two weeks.
He writes mid-length, doesn't he? Like he's not especially short, but neither is he especially long.
I mean, it depends on your perspective. I mean, anything over 200 pages to me is long. So.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well,
oh dear God.
Yeah, you don't want to touch any of our books.
Oh,
as far as how Thomas and I are concerned, that's a novella.
I'm
trying to move your icon further away from mine on the screen right now, Holly.
I hit like 240,000 words in my last book, and that is still small compared to these two.
No, I'm 220.
Yes.
Yeah.
Victory.
Thomas is close to 4, though. I think.
Well, this one is wherever it is. This one is 300.
Oh, 3.
But the next one's going to be over 4 though.
Is it really, dude? Holy, you're gonna
genuinely. It's something you really.
I'm gonna take forever to read it.
Like it's madness because I'm looking like just literally from like an economics perspective. Like I'm looking at my next series has to be shorter. Literally has to be because if I want to be financially viable, I need to be able to have multiple releases in a year.
And we can't charge more for the longer books.
Exactly.
Yep.
Now they do well. KU is important to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I make more on a full KU read than I do on an ebook sale because of the size of the book. So in that, and it seems to be that long fantasy does well in KU because people are like, well, I don't want to get involved unless I know I'm going to like it. Then they finish it. So that's helpful. But then at the same time, it's like Ryan said, it's like it's so hard to hit a yearly release when you're at 200 plus.
That's the
my hope is to do 2 per year. As well, because I'm in addition to writing this big chunky series, I'm writing some side stories, novellas that are a lot shorter, closer to the 200K or less. Or
that's
100K
not a novella. I'm pushing it. I'm touching 50K with my novella, and that's pushing it. All right, 200K is a fucking novel. It's a big novel.
Mine 200K is just 35, I think.
35?
Yeah. I have a novella that's 35K. So that's actually allowed to be called a novella.
Yeah, I think the novella, the closest I'm going to be able to come on that is probably 50K.
I think when your books are 200K plus, 50K is it's really standard. I think, but it's the really important thing. It really is. It's frequency of release. It's not even costing. If you could charge more for your longer book, it wouldn't matter. It's the frequency of release. It's staying relevant. Whereas big publishing houses, if they don't have to release for a year and a half or 2 years because they just do a huge marketing campaign when they release the next book and everyone knows about it already.
Yeah. Everyone else, there's a really long tail.
True. All the Kindle readers just forget who you are.
Okay.
I just want to say that Thomas's We Break Immortals is so big that I've been reading it since Christmas Eve. Yeah. and I'm only at I'm at 85%. I'm at 85% through it. I've been reading it since Christmas. It's a chunky boy.
Some people are crazy readers.
I can't believe when people read.
Yeah, there was one person who read my book in 2 days.
That's wild.
2
Holy
days.
shit.
You must be sitting there. It's amazing. It's incredible. I said it to them. I was like, what did you do? Did you hook yourself to an IV and sit on the couch? How is that possible?
It must have been the equivalent of binge watching a TV show for a full weekend because they must have done nothing else.
Just simple reading speed. You have to be committing 18, 19 hours each of those days.
That's wild. And
you're gonna have to be reading on the toilet so you don't have to move.
Yeah. And I get it because I mean every time I sit down to read We Break Immortals, I'm there for 4 hours. And I'm just it's so good. I get so absolutely hooked on it. But yeah, that's wild. 2 days. Even people, I even saw people who were like, oh, I read it in a week. And I'm like, how, dude? That is huge.
It's weird because from an author perspective, it's cool and a little bit fucking depressing.
I worked on this thing for 5 years.
Years of my life. You read it in 2 days and asked me when's the next one.
Yeah.
I have people beta reading my novella right now, and they literally 2 of them finished it in one sitting. And it's a novel. It's 40,000 words. They finished it there yesterday, and they're like, okay, great. When's the 3rd book? I was like,
not for a while. Sit your ass down.
Yeah, it's an incredible compliment. It feels really good, but then you look at the pile of work you have to get the next one out, and it's okay, well, just hang on a sec. I'm gonna get there.
I don't know if it's just me, but every single time I do it and I give the book to someone, like beta reading is probably the scariest thing in my entire life, because I'll finish a book and I'm like, this is a steaming pile of turd. It is shit. And I'm like, here, you read it. And I'm just like, please don't read it.
Well, that's actually kind of one of my questions is what is your guys' relationship with your how does it work with like beta readers and I guess editors and stuff? Like, what is your back and forth with them? How much of their input do you take into account when it comes to like doing a second or third or fourth draft or whatever?
I'm gonna let someone else talk because you put whiskey in an Irish guy, so I'm gonna keep talking the whole time.
Okay.
I consciously have to kind of tone myself down.
Yeah, you and me both. Holly, you should go.
The problem child.
Yeah, Holly, drink more of that pink gin. Get in there.
I haven't got much left at this point because I haven't finished yet, so I'm just drinking it.
That glass is a lesson on how to make pink gin grimdark.
Yeah.
Tell us pink and
Well, like, listen.
All my glassware is really dark and grey and miserable looking. So yeah, it's
it's camouflage. It's whiskey camouflage. So
if you're in a Grimdark novel, if a character in a Grimdark novel is drinking something vibrantly pink, you know that's a dangerous motherfucker. So I don't doubt Holly's. No, that person is sitting in a Grimdark novel willingly drinking something pink. He knows he can kill anyone who tries to, or she can kill anyone who tries to assert that their pinkness is not good enough. So I mean, I don't buy this innocent.
This is a conversation that I was having with someone the other day. I think it was on Twitter, and I'm sorry, I'm just absolutely not going to answer the question you asked. I'm going to talk about drink. But we were basically talking about how I want to really challenge the stereotypes of particular drinks being connected to, evil or, kind of dark characters. Like, when you see them in the High Tower and they've always got, like a really dark, like smoky whiskey going on. It's like, you never walk into like the evil lair and get offered like a limoncello or something like that.
That's the guy to watch
never been for an evil lair in Italy.
I think there needs to be like more Campari in Grimdark. That's
some Negronis.
Have the limoncello of evil.
Exactly. I've completely forgotten what the question even was now because I've distracted myself.
Oh, how
your
much
relationship with your beta readers
and like editors and stuff? Like, how does that work back and forth?
I mean, for me, I think it was very different because I've just finished writing my second book. So my first book, the whole process was more about learning what I was doing because I didn't really have a clue, and now I still don't have a clue, but now I know more about it than I did. So I think this time round, my relationship with my editor has probably been a little smoother in terms of she's really good in that she knows what I want from the book. So if I've got chapters or things in it where I know what I want to convey, but it's not quite there, she's very keyed into the way that my mind works and the things that I want to put in there. So for me, kind of working with my editor this time has been more collaborative. Whereas before it was really just her saying, no, you can't put that many commas in a paragraph.
Watch me.
That's my life. That's my whole fucking life.
She still
right
does.
Yeah.
But in terms of like beta readers, I have a really good core team now that they will beta read anything that I do, and they're really honest with me. They will give me negatives, critiques. They'll tell me things that don't work for them. And I also have, I wouldn't call them like sensitivity readers because that's not really what they're doing, but they read the book and it's people who come from a perspective of like certain backgrounds and like knowledge. So for my first book, because there's a lot of sex workers in my first book, I had an expert reader who has kind of knows a lot about that background and how it works, and that was really invaluable to get that kind of experience and that depth of knowledge. So yeah, I tend to go out to them probably about 4 or 5 edits in, and at that point they'll then feed back to me, and then I'll go ahead and make whatever changes.
Nice. Has there ever been has a beta reader ever, or an editor, I guess, ever sent you back any amount of or sent you back any criticism that made you kind of have to drastically reevaluate a chapter or the book?
I wouldn't say in terms of having to drastically reevaluate the storyline. Certainly with the first book, there was a lot of structural changes to it from my editor when I sent her kind of the initial manuscript. And she basically, it was just like she got out a chopping board and just hacked it to pieces and then gave it back to me and said, right, okay, now put it all back together in a different order. Which I was really angry about. I got really mad because it was just such a good book the way it was. And then I did all the things that she was telling me to do, and I realized that actually it was a steaming pile of hot garbage before, and now it was starting to look more like a book. So the lesson there is obviously don't let your ego get in the way of making the changes you need to make.
Yep, that's awesome.
Do you say you do 4 or 5 editing processes before giving it to beta readers?
Yeah, probably about 4 or 5, I would say.
I do that. I about that many too.
My beta readers get I do first draft, I clean it through, beta readers.
That's some confidence, my friend.
Yeah,
that's what
I'm terrified to do that.
So for me, Brightwash, my first draft was, it's actually seems to be the outline for a series, because I got to the end of it and I could kind of see the beats of different novels almost. And so I cut off the first chunk to do Brightwash, and the draft that I sent to first readers the first time is miles away from what it ended up with. So I cut a chunk, I rewrote that chunk a few times. And then I sent it to Angela, and I was like, is this a book? Maybe kind of am I going somewhere? Am I wasting my time? And so it was, yeah, this stuff is good. This stuff is, I want to know more about. I skipped all the most interesting stuff, as you do. And then, so I edited it again, and hired some, sensitivity readers, and then I edited it again and sent it to Angela and got it back again. And so the 2 files that she saw were miles apart, and then I got it back from her and I edited it again to add stuff, and then I sent it to my final editor. And that I was foolishly optimistic to think that was just because it was the first book. And after that, it was going to be easier because I knew what I was doing, like an idiot. But it turns out that that's just my process, where the first thing that I write is so incredibly a miss of what I even wanted to try to say. And I can't see how badly I've done until somebody starts reading it and going, I don't understand this, and I don't understand this, and I don't understand this. And it's like, oh, okay, all right, I need to figure some of this stuff out.
Do you outline it all, Krystle, or do you just plow through?
No, I call it an outline, but it was just a really, really bad first draft. And it was just so thin and flimsy that it was just like, this happened and then this happened, and I guess that character died. I'm gonna keep going. and then so I take these loosely connected series of events, and then as I revise them, that's when I figure out what I'm trying to say and what I think is important enough to highlight, and what, even though in the moment seemed cool, distracts from what that core of, the main through line of the story. So there's a lot of triage and there's a lot of cutting room floor stuff. And so the best and quickest example of it I have is a short story that I did for an anthology where I wrote about 8,000 words to the theme. And then a character said something, just a throwaway line about his father's old paperweight watch that can't be fixed. And so at the end of that, I wrote about 1,000 words of him going back to deal with the watch. And I sent it to first readers, and Levi took it and read it and said, I kind of like it, but that last 1,000 words is the most interesting part of the story. And the rest of it, like it's good, but there's no, like the emotional core isn't there. So hear me out. What if you threw away 7,000 words and focused on that 1,000 and made that into a story? And I did it. And he was right. He was bang on. And so now it's 9,000 words of just this one event of him going home.
I was expecting to take 1,000 and go, and now I have a short story. No, I made it longer. And it's still technically a little bit of a novella.
Right. But and he read both versions. He read like the first terrible version and then the last polished version. And he said that, the emotions are better. The culture that is supposed to come through is better, even though he doesn't do anything. Like he doesn't interact with very many people, but he's just interacting with this watch that used to be his father's. And it's just, and that apparently is my process where I throw a lot of bullshit at a page and somebody goes, hey, this one idea was good. Right. And then I rewrite everything about 4 or 5 times. So you can't, you don't know what you don't know until somebody starts asking you questions. And if you're not ready to listen, you're going to miss some really good opportunities to dig into something really, really powerful. So definitely it's good to find people that are willing to ask and willing to push. And even if you disagree with what they say, you can still take that and make what you were trying to say clearer so that it resonates for them better. Or you can go in like a third completely different option, because if they've said something isn't working, you don't get to hang out with the reader and explain to them the things that you had to explain to your beta reader. So it's just an opportunity to dig and just push your own inspiration into a place that you didn't know you could go until someone started asking those questions.
For sure.
Yeah. It could be as simple as just one line of text. Like I'm amazed at how many little things that a beta reader caught where they said, that 2 of my side characters who aren't even main characters, he just didn't one of my main beta readers didn't understand the dynamic between these 2 characters and assumed that they hated each other when in fact it was more of a like brotherly, I can't stand you because, but deep down I love a relationship. Yeah. And the thing that what Krystle was talking about is when you're writing a book, all of the information, even the information that's not on the page. And so it's very easy to project what you know about your characters and about the story onto the page without actually writing in that it's there. And so it's easy for you to like miss little things here and there. And literally all I had to do was add one sentence, literally just one sentence to kind of quantify and qualify that their angry interactions with each other. And that solved the whole thing. And I get a lot of good stuff from beta readers in that vein. That and then the tone, making sure that they're getting the tone that you're going for. Like, am I supposed to be really upset with your main character here? Am I supposed to be frustrated with your main character here? Or am I supposed to be, because, there are times you want the reader to be frustrated with the decisions your main character makes. There are times where you want them to question it. And then there are other times where you're like, oh, that was a mistake. No, you're supposed to sympathize right here. There are times in my book where I want the reader to be confused, not about the story in general, but I want them to share. Yeah, I want them to share the confusion that a character is experiencing, and so the beta readers came out and provided some information on that. There's one part in the book where a number of things happen rapidly in sequence, and it's very disorienting. And they were like, I feel disoriented, and I'm like, good, because I want you to be in the. And a lot of other people have pointed out things like that are the same things that the beta readers pointed out.
A little footnote on the bottom that says, read this while spinning in circles.
Right, exactly. Little things like that, tonal things are very good things that beta readers catch that you might miss because you're not, thinking completely and one of the other things is just spatial understanding of the physical space that your characters are in. That was one of the things that I have a bad habit of not always properly explaining the physical dimensions of the space the characters are in. And so I got a lot of good feedback from beta readers about like how many people are in this room right now. You have 50 people in this room, but when you described at the beginning, I got the impression it was a closet. So what's going on here? So I got a lot of good information there so that I could go back and be like, okay, I need to do a better job of describing how big this area is.
There's a great podcast episode that Brandon Sanderson does on writing excuses. If you haven't listened to that podcast, they're only 15 minutes long. They're fucking incredible. But he does a whole episode on blocking, which is what you're talking about there. So it's like exactly how they go through blocking a scene and finding exactly where everyone is at all times and how they do it with like minimum exposition. And it's fantastic.
Yeah, literally all it took was like just a couple of lines at the beginning to correct the because I described its darkness and its closeness, because it is a close, a claustrophobic space, but they took that as a literal thing. And so I had to just do a little quick qualifying, but but blocking is very important especially when you have more than two characters in a scene together.
There's such cool ways of doing it. I spent half my time watching craft videos, listening to podcasts and stuff. And like, there's ways people are saying how to do it. Like, you don't just have to say, Tom was over here, Krystle was over there, Holly was down low. It's like using your sense of smell to tell where someone is in the room. It's something you just don't do. You wouldn't bother. But like if you're sitting there, I could smell the stench of damp piss from Gina on my left. It's one of those where you can create the environment while also telling where everyone is. It's really cool.
Man, who's Gina? You just did her dirty
to not say anyone's
live
name
on this podcast.
I was like, if I say Holly's name right now, she'll never forgive me. Like if I say it like Spencer as well, no. Come up with a different name.
It's about making informed choices. Like if somebody says, this is making me uncomfortable, maybe you should rethink it. And it's like, no, I'm going to double down. Thanks. That's perfect. That's what you're supposed to feel. You're supposed to doubt that this is the right thing. Yeah. So every comment helps because you can make a choice. No, I'm going to pick this fight. I'm going to stand this ground and die on this hill. Or no, that's not what I intended. So I got to shift it so that my intentions become clearer. Because when we read our novels, we read with the understanding of what we intended, and so it reads really well because it's what we intended, but you have to, it has to interact with other people.
That's interesting. Your novel reads well to you? Because mine doesn't read well to me. I always read and go, oh God.
Well, see, maybe that's the difference between doing it once and then doing it 16 times.
Yes.
It doesn't
Krystle,
read well on the first one.
nail on the head.
At the end of it,
that's how I used to feel about my first few drafts of this, what became this book. The first iterations of it I hated, and now I love this one. So, yeah,
that makes me sad for you, Ryan, because like I'll read that. I had to go through it and track characters recently for reasons I cannot discuss, and every now and then I caught myself actually reading it because it's like, yeah, I put a lot of work into this fucker and it's doing pretty good.
I'll get that and I'll read the book and
that's good.
Certain things where I read and I'll go, oh yeah, like, I did this well. I wrote this well. I know I wrote the scene well, but it's more like the over-connecting arc. Like the novella I just wrote there, I kind of break every rule that you're meant to have for a novella. So like novella is meant to be set in a singular time around a core concept. It's meant to be quick, and it's meant to be just through it. You keep the characters minimal, you keep the location minimal, all in one place. And I literally broke into 4 parts, did huge time jumps between each one. They're leaping around the place in different areas. And, I'm reading it going, I like this writing, but I don't know if it will land for someone who is reading it without the context I have as the author of what I'm trying to do. And so I send it to my beta readers and I'm like, fuck. And no matter how many times I revise that, I'm going to have that feeling because it's not the writing that I've done. It's the structure that I've given to the story. And I'm keeping that structure because I did it for a reason.
Yeah, well, that's where the informed choices come in because, I have the same thing. I get knocked for my structure sometimes because it meanders, but I did that for a reason. And, that was a hill I was going to choose to die on because I know what I'm trying to say. And I also know what's coming later. And so if I had pared it back as much as other people, some people want, it works really well for some people and bless them. They're my heroes. But if I had pared it back as far or started somewhere else, it just, I knew the
lesson
journey
is
that
you'll
you
never
had
make
to take.
everybody happy, Krystle. You'll never make
Absolutely.
everybody happy. There are people like
That's
the feedback from that I've seen for your book, feedback from people reading my book. Like some people absolutely love the first half of my book the most and think the second half happens too fast and just whatever. And then other people like the first half but love the second half because it moves fast. You can't choose. People are going to zone in on different characters and decide this is my favorite character, and I may not even like any of the other characters in your book. Like maybe this is my favorite character, and all these other characters that you really liked and spent time on, I'm going to like.
Garbage,
gloss over, and then the next person's going to say, no, this character that guy skipped over, that's the character I love to follow, and then these other characters are extreme. You'll never be able to satisfy everyone, so the decision comes down to, you're not asking beta readers to rewrite the book for you. You're not asking beta readers to just cut lines out and change things around for you. You're just trying to get some opinions to inform your choices, is what Krystle said.
Because I think it's interesting that you guys do all the different drafts first and then you give it out, because one of my when I was going through it in my head, I was going, okay, so I want to release my book as efficiently as I can, but I also want to have as little stress on me as possible because it's already stressful. So the way I looked at it is, if I sent it to one person at a time and get another edit, and basically there's no draft of a book I could give to someone without them giving me notes on it. So every draft I give to someone, they're going to give me notes on it, and I'm going to revise it. Whereas what I then decided to do was just, I take a little bit of time and I do as clean a first draft as I can. And then when I give it to my beta readers, beta reading to me is as important as editing, because it just is the amount of times that, because I do it through Google Docs, and I get them all their own doc, and they leave all inline comments, like literally like, haha, lol. Like,
those are great.
This was funny. This wasn't funny. Like that sort of shit. And I can read through them all and go, okay, yeah, they're reacting. Literally, as they're reading it, I know that this is landing the way I wanted it to, or it's not landing the way I wanted it to. And if one person has a certain feedback, I might ignore it depending on, I know how each reader is and where they are in my target reader. So depending on the person, I kind of go, actually, I need to listen to this, or I'll wait for 3 or 4 people to come together to say the same thing. And like, I'll take it, do a redraft, then send it straight to my editor, Sarah, who's a fucking legend. And like, she goes through it, I'll take it back, I'll do it one more time, and then it's released. It gets a proofread too. But I just, my mind would collapse on itself, because I just be like rewriting and rewriting.
I only do one round of beta reading as well. I just do some revisions and corrections before it gets to that level. So I'll do my my first, normally speaking, we can talk about how the full saga of how this book came to be, because it's, it's not my normal practice for how it normally happens. But my preference is to like have an idea of what I want to do and try to write through, like what you were saying, as clean a first draft as possible with as much of the, everything correct. But I like to do secondary pass-throughs of it to like make sure that the atmosphere feels correct, make sure that I'm, capitalizing on five senses, all five senses, make sure that the dialogue hits. Like sometimes I'll just do a pass-through just for the dialogue to correct and stuff like that.
That's
so it's not like I pass it out
words.
to readers and then go back, but like I do multiple passes of the book before I go to a beta reader.
So I usually I'll draft it up, and in my first one I'll outline. I always outline. I'm not crazy to each chapter conversational level outline, but I always know the very last line that's going to be written in the whole book before I start, and then I'll pick the middle, and then what it does is it helps me to stay on track. And also I'll hit those and I'll pick the beats that need to happen and just kind of bounce in between them. So like my first one is just making sure, knock that down. That structure is tight. That is where I want it to be, how it's going to go. My POVs are where they need to be for the right reasons. And then I'll do like a redraft where I'll go through and I go, okay, I need to make sure, basically what I'll do on a redraft is I'll spend 15, 20 minutes going through each POV in my head to get into who they are. And then I'll read through their chapter to make sure that the tone for who they are is right. Like the novella I just had there, one of the beta readers got back, said she loved it. And she's like, it's a bit more grimdark than your usual stuff. And I was like, that's perfect, because the POV character who it is in it, who's there, is going through a really fucked up time in their life. And they're in a really dark place, and it's all through their eyes. So the world is darker. And that's kind of what I want. And once I've hit that, I kind of give it to my beta readers. If there's some stuff off with tone and things like that, they go, for instance, I have a habit of using humor to break tense situations, which works really well. But sometimes the humor can be misplaced, and that's where it gets picked up. Like if the tone is dark, but someone's being jovial, I love that word, they'll tell me, and I can fix that, and then they'll go through that, and then like do a big cleanup draft, send it to my editor, and then she kind of tidies up or makes suggestions. Like Sarah, and then most of you know Sarah, at least online. Like she's so good with dragging emotions out of things. And then also telling you, going, this line is good, but if you just change one word, it hits 100 times better. And like, she's so good at that. It's incredible.
I want to get to a couple other questions before we run out of time, but I also want to say, dark yet jovial is literally a character from like Holly's books. Like Mandego is literally how I would describe him. Gabe, do you want to go through one of your questions down here?
Yeah, I would love to. All right, so what is your guys', if any at all, like your writing kryptonite? Like something that's the bane of your writing, causes you the most issues, stuff like that.
Commas. 100%. It's commas.
Yeah.
Commas?
Don't you mean?
And where to place them?
It's commas.
That's how I meant it. With an extra few commas just at the end.
No matter how much I look it up, I still fuck it up.
You know what? My final editor, my copy editor, kind of low-key diagnosed me as having ADHD because of how I use commas, because apparently it's very common among folks with ADHD where they use commas for voice to put emphasis instead of
I definitely do.
correct.
I definitely do.
Whatever.
Commas here and there.
That means almost everyone I know has ADHD. Because
Yep.
Yeah.
And so and she specifically made a choice to leave some of those she calls them style commas in, because it the thing about grammar in fiction is it's there to paint a clear picture. And if you strip it down to its very technical base, then the painting loses definition.
Mm.
So she triages my ADHD commas and goes, this one's wrong, but I'm gonna leave it because I like it.
I definitely do that. I'm also a gentleman who is a big fan of sentence fragments, and I will use sentence fragments all over the place. If I want to get like a very choppy, fast-paced tone, I'll use sentence like periods instead of commas, like to break up sentences.
Right.
If I want to get like a sense of a faster pace and choppiness to it. So the rules of grammar are there so that you can break them from time
so that
to
you
time.
can understand them and know how to manipulate them. Like,
it's like anything, if it's done intentionally.
Yeah. One of my characters, Lauren, uses a lot of sentence fragments because he doesn't think great.
He don't think well, did.
No, he's kind of a firing from the hip kind of guy. So it's a way to give that chaotic energy to his chapters where, that thoughts are incomplete and, action isn't tracked well because he's moving on instinct rather than, technical training, I guess I would say. So it's just, anyway, grammar is the bane of, but also the solution to.
I even like to invent my own words, not even just world building words, but I like to invent my own adjectives. Like
you're so lumpy.
Things that sound like they could be real words in the dictionary, like protuberous is not a real word, but I like the way it sounds better than protuberant. So I make stylistic choices that editors
don't do that.
I have to put on my style sheet. I have to put on my style sheet words that I made up to give to any editor to be like, I acknowledge and understand that this is a made up word. I had to do the same thing with some of my spellings because I used the British spellings for gray. And I got a lot of pushback for that because I don't use any other British spellings because I don't.
But the one with the E looks better, okay?
Correct. Aesthetically wise, it pleases me better. I don't go in for the British and Canadian U. I don't spell color or honor with the U.
You mean the U that was there when the language was invented?
Correct.
Yeah, exactly.
That doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. I
think it's very different in the indie market than it is in the trad market, because in the trad market you divide it into two different sections and you do two US and UK English and you send it out. Mm-hmm. Whereas we have to balance between both readerships.
We have to decide, And as a Canadian, that does a mutt of both, where we do all the U's and we do the like proper spelling of gray. Yeah, but we also do IZE instead of ISE. I know, and so I had to uncorrect some of my spelling because my editor is American. So it's a weird choice that I think only indies have to make, where it's like, no, I'm gonna stand my ground on these U's and these Z's.
I'm going to throw in one more bane before we just sink under the weight of all these commas and sentences. I hate writing transitions between moments, whether in scenes or lead-ins to chapters. I very much hate to do that. I still do it here and there, but I much prefer to just begin a chapter in the middle of what's going on and try to like reference where they are through starting from the action.
I have the opposite problem.
So I tend to do that a lot because I hate writing transitions so much. And if I have to do a transition in the middle of a chapter, like where characters are at one location, having a scene, dialogue, action in a scene, and then have to move to another location in that chapter to have, the second scene that will make that chapter. I have a tendency to go very quickly past that transition. Like I do not spend a lot of time doing description.
That's how you would do it. Like if you spent the whole time describing everything the way they move, like nobody would get to
Shut up, Brian.
I wish I could just like zap people's brain to be in the location and just go straight to dialogue.
The lamp was still shining, the floor was flory.
Yeah.
I have trouble knowing when to cut stuff like that out, because I just need to know. I need to know.
Well, it's the one
lose track.
The one thing that I learned from reading, because I used to do that. I used to include everything. I used to sit there and just grudgingly type every single, like if they had to go from this city to this city and there were 3 towns in between, I had to describe going to every town and what every road was like. And reading the George R. R. Martin's books, that's the one thing big thing I gleaned from that is starting in the middle of action or in the middle and making a jump. So like, yeah, they'll, I have at some points a chapter will finish and it says they're going to be going, it'll be them talking about how they're going to walk 200 miles to get to this city and then take a boat 1,000 miles across the continent. Next chapter, they're at the place 1,000 miles away. I just go right to it. So I do that a lot.
But that's something I think you learn as you start to write. I think everyone wants to do this, but then you realize that like if you have to travel 200 miles and 1,000 miles on ship, your next chapter should be them there.
It is very liberating. Unless there's a very specific reason that you need to show it, like I'm all for skipping it because it felt so much. It was such a relief knowing that I didn't have to show all that stuff.
Obviously, not every time. There can be character moments along the way. Where you know what? On this journey, this is a perfect time for it to be a character moment or an emotional moment or time for Holly to talk because we haven't let Holly talk in ages.
Well, yeah, shut up. Shut up,
Riddler.
But yeah, that's.
I have nothing to say on this bit of the chat, so I was hoping no one would notice me for a few minutes there. But yeah, I think I'm with Krystle on this one. I need to know everything.
And I think the character moments is why I fall apart specifically, because it's like I'm so interested in how these people fail to.
Well, I agree with that, Krystle, but I do I put the character moments after they've gotten there, and I kind of leave space. Well, what I'm saying is, no, I'm not knocking the way you do it, but I'm saying like the reason that I do it is because I leave space in between there for the reader to kind of put in their own mental projection.
Probably correct, but I'm going to be mad about it.
The characters may have had a couple of near-miss romantic moments in this 1,000 miles, and your mind can put that in there without you having to write it.
If you think about it as well, I find a lot of my deepest conversation comes either at 2 a.m. when I'm drunk on whiskey, or when I'm.
You're only drunk at 2 a.m. I don't buy it.
Yeah, no, that's when it hits the deep moments.
Oh, I see.
Ryan's always drunk. I'm never drunk, so we balance each other out on Earth.
When I'm on a long trip with someone, like if I'm driving somewhere and I'm driving 100 miles in a car,
that's when
after a while you start talking about things.
Yeah,
and so it's just natural, and I try and build it logically in my head, and I go, there is no fucking way they're traveling 700 miles
and they don't talk about anything important.
Nothing worth talking about is coming up, and I suppose that's the difference. If they're talking about how they care for their horse. And I suppose this is the way writing works. But it's the way writing works, because if they're talking about how they care for their horse and that's all they're talking about, it doesn't matter. But if there's subcontext in how they care for their horse and it shows something about the character, then you can.
Well, see, I can think of a specific character that I have where he would invest a lot of emotion specifically in caring for his horse. So it's
Spencer, we're gonna talk about this for the next 2 hours. So
you guys have to stop us.
Please jump in. Please jump in.
You gotta jump in.
So you got us all
please jump in, or you're gonna have to spend like days trying to edit out individual moments.
Can we do a pause and then jump into more questions?
Let's do that for sure. That sounds good.
Fine. Go to the bathroom. Whatever.
Okay, so
we're all back.
We got.
How many questions are left?
We're not getting. Yeah. There's no way.
Okay, let's do some rapid fire questions and see if we can all stay on task.
Sure. So there's 3 questions that I'd really like to get into, and then we have.
Let's do it right now. Let's jump in. I'm ready.
We'll ask Holly.
Unedited version, but you can cut out all of our ranting.
Okay, I'm gonna read.
That's the fun part.
We can. We'll try. We will endeavor to do concise answers. to these questions and each talk in a row and only talk over each other once or twice.
Once per question or once
For
you need to calm down. You keep talking over Thomas, okay?
All right.
Tell me
only one person is allowed to interrupt at a time.
All right. Here's the question that I have next. So all of you guys have had a pretty successful start for your debuts. All of your debuts have been very successful, especially on Twitter. Do you feel like do you have after finishing that first book, as many of you are writing sequels right now or finishing them, do you feel any major pressure for the second book in your series or the next novella or whatever to live up to, I guess, the hype of the first book?
Yes.
Is that
yes. Four yeses.
Yes.
4 yeses. I'll answer for everybody there.
I've
No,
already
let
released
Holly
the
answer,
second
you asshole.
I'm so chill about it. I'm just like, it's just been like
You
an
have-
easy process, and like there's
You
been
have-
no worries. Like
Easily.
it's just been really, really easy, like the whole way through. Just
You have the single best sequel title in the business, as far as I'm concerned. So obviously, you know what you're doing, and the rest of us are like white hot trash.
And when Holly gave the title, only because Krystle said title of her first book earlier, when she said "We Men of Ash and Shadow." No, that's what it's called, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's the first
Am I
one.
wrong? 2 whiskeys and my brain will go. But for some reason, my brain kind of heard it in like a Scottish version, and I just thought
this
like,
has happened
little
so
men of
much.
Ash and Shadow. I just pictured these tiny people running around.
I've had so many like weird variations of the title. Like I've had the same thing from other people as well. I've also had people who have referred to it as Women of Ash and Shadow.
Listen, I read that one too.
So I'm gonna be
That's your spin-off series.
Yeah, that's gonna be, you can tell the same story from a different perspective.
Fuck all the men and focus on the sex workers from We Men, and then it's just, Women of Ash and Shadow, and I'll buy that book too, Holly.
Well, I'm just at the point now where I'm waiting to see like how people are gonna like mishear the new book, which is The Hand That Cast the Bone. So that's gonna be an interesting one.
That's a pretty fucking cool name.
Is it a large chunk of time later, or like are you picking up right away, or I mean, I guess it's kind of spoilerish.
Find out, Krystle.
It's not immediately, but it's like within the time frame of like the same year.
Okay.
I'm going to cast this back to make Spencer's job easier, and answer his questions. So I'll go because I released the second book. I released the second book at the end of December, and it was probably, I thought releasing the first book was nerve-wracking. The second book is 4 times as nerve-wracking, because now especially if you've had people who read it and liked it, all of a sudden you're just like, it'll keep happening. But for a lot of people, if you think about it, if your series, especially if it's longer than a trilogy, depends what it is, but if it's longer than a trilogy, usually the second book is a key point, because when people have read, especially the size of these books, when people have read 3 books, they're probably going to read the 4th book if it's decent. If one's decent.
Yeah, unless you really disappoint them.
The second book is not, I'm not committing to this. And I thought that way, and then I'm starting to write the 3rd book and I'm shitting myself just as much. For me, certainly like the low ratings don't bother me, because it's like, yeah, okay, they won't buy the next one, no problem, it's fine. Like I'm selecting my audience. But then for me, the pressure comes from the people who really connected and who really enjoyed it. And it's like, okay, and then you have to strike that balance of what they expect, but also defying what they expect so it feels new. And then, there's certain themes that are really important, and how do I carry those forward in a way that feels organic versus and just that balance of knowing that they're waiting for something
and wondering if I'm going to deliver it has been the hardest part of writing. And I think being so visible while I'm trying to figure that out makes it worse, because it's like I was expecting Brightwash to launch very quietly and 5 people would read it, and then I could write the next book and maybe 5 more people would read that, and I could figure it out quietly.
Yeah.
But that has not been the case, and I am immensely grateful for the support, but it's also like, oh, okay, I guess I'm doing this now. and then
balancing the expectation with craft as well, because
and figuring
you have
out
directions you want to go, but people want you to go certain directions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
and
balancing
then
them.
what's important to me versus what people are saying they think I'm going to say. And that's not to say that, anyone saying anything is a bad thing. Like it's amazing and I'm so grateful, but it's like, I don't want to feel like I've promised something that I can't deliver, or I don't want them to feel like they've been tricked to follow something that they wouldn't have followed before.
I'll give you a prime example for me, and to go on exactly what you're saying there is, you go through like reviews of my first book, I'd say 1 in 4, 1 in 5 mention the relationship between 3 main characters. And they say how natural the relationship is and how the way they treat each other and talk to each other and the dynamics between them is one of their favorite things about the book. Imagine how nervous I was when I knew
to do that right.
That the second book had all 3 of them splitting up.
Yeah, exactly.
I
and
knew
it's like
these characters are not going to see each other in the second book. And it's a core thing that's there for the whole first book that everyone would, almost literally 1/4 of reviews would talk about it.
But at the same time, you can't just deliver more of the same, because then it feels stale. Yeah. So
I have very similar fears.
Because of the expectation.
Yeah.
I have very similar fears for that about characters, Ryan, especially when people will tell me when they're like 80% done with the book, like, I love such and such character, nothing better ever happened to such and such character. And then I just kind of go,
I'm sorry.
The best thing, right? So what I've taken to doing is, so in my world, when I do it all the time, I think a lot of people do it as well, but if I have like minor characters that come up, I always try to give them traits to make them feel like a realistic person. Okay.
Same.
So sometimes some people go, I always get the odd review. I don't need to know about this person's name because they're completely inconsequential to the story. So every time that happens, I take that character, I put them in a notebook, and I bring them back up in the second book. Every time. Like every single one that's been noted.
I name every character that I can, just about almost every character. I believe in humanizing characters, even bit part characters that are only on the page for 1 chapter or not. So I'm huge into that as well, Ryan.
I really
have a bit character in
guys.
book 1 that will become a POV in book 2 even. That's how strong I feel about it.
I admire you guys talking about it like you have some control over these people and you can make these decisions. I always feel like I'm just writing like the incident report to file with the police station, and they're just making their own bad fucking choices, and I'm just following along.
Well, long story short, yes, I am nervous, but I'm not like all-consumingly nervous. Like I have a certain amount of confidence in what I'm doing. Part of what I did with this last rewrite that I did was to set up and make sure that the tone of the first book was in line with the tone of the second book to catch it up. Because my previous version of the first book, I wrote sequel material and then went back and rewrote the first book. To kind of bring it up to the tone so that it will be a more consistent, even though like I still have concerns because the story isn't going to be quite the same. Like you're used to characters hunting a villain and hunting each other and the things like that happening. And I'm going to flip the script and do some changes in how things develop. And so I am a little bit worried about that, but at least I'm confident that the tone I'll be able to keep the same from one to the next.
I'm not confident I can keep my tone the same because I know for a fact it's going to get darker, and people are asking for more magic. But when I start exploring that more magic, shit's going to get heavy, and people are just going to have to deal with it. And it distracted me for a long time, where I wrote a lot of words in a storyline that was not as dark as what the main storyline should have been, because I focused on somebody else. Because I was worried about how the tone of this, it's getting worse, folks. Like, you know, and I wasted, well, I can't say I wasted time, because it gave me time to make a decision that, yeah, I'm just going to go there and people are going to have to deal with it. And maybe I'll lose some people who enjoyed the first book because it gets darker. But I mean, I set up a world.
It'll sift the strong from the weak.
Yeah, I set up an economy based on these energy units, and to anyone who read the book and knows what that means, it's going to get dark, and you're just going to have to accept that it's getting dark.
Right.
Bad things have happened to make this possible. Thomas knows.
I will say that my second book does have a lot more higher percentage darker elements, but they're at least in the same tonal world now as so there will be a lot more of it, because I'm doing a deeper dive into some of the things, but yeah, so the quantity of the darkness will actually go up a little bit. So I do worry that some people, so I will still have a lot of comic relief to kind of break up the tension.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to keep a careful eye on that. You know,
I bet
but there's only so
could.
much you can do. You know, some people are just going to be like, no, this is the first book was just the right amount of darkness. This is 1% more darkness. I'm out. Goodbye.
I think that having that consistent tone is probably the most important thing to readers, because like the story can change and it can get wildly different and stuff. But I think whether the tone gets darker or lighter, I think from a reader's perspective, having it go at that consistent and gradual pace is key. Because like right now we're reading the Night Angel trilogy, and the first book is like really, really dark, and it ends really, really dark. And then you get to the second book and it lightens up like significantly, like right from the get-go.
Not
and
for long.
You feel that, well, not for long, but you feel that you feel that immediately though, like when, you know, I don't want to give spoilers, but in the first like quarter to maybe half of the book, it's, you know, very much a lighter book. And I think that, you know, I've read them so many times now that I just know to expect it. But when I was first reading them, for sure, that second book kind of threw me for a loop. I'm like, oh wow, this isn't the Night Angel that I knew in the first book.
It's a bit of an act of trust, where the writer is trusting the reader to trust them.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree.
Strike that, it's reverse it.
No, the writer is asking the reader, please trust me.
Yeah.
And the reader is investing a trust in the writer, hopefully. And it goes down to like contracts. Like if the writer has successfully offered a contract that the reader can believe in, then they'll follow you through. And then I was watching a thing from what's his name, Dan Brown, talking about how if you pace a novel based on these contracts of, this is a question that you're supposed to ask. Trust me, I will answer it if you follow me to the next few chapters. And you kind of rotate these contracts through. And then if you've balanced it right, you can throw wild shit at people, but you've built up enough of a backlog of trust that they're like, no, it's okay. I'm gonna address this. Just trust me. And so building that on a book level and then on a series level is just what we have to figure out.
It definitely helps if there's an investment in the characters too. Yeah. Because if you are able to craft characters that people can get into, and a voice that they can follow, and that they grow to love over the book. That's a big help too, because there's some people who, if they love a character, they will be in it for what the fuck ever happens to find out what happens to this character.
What the fuck is exactly right.
They'll be in it. They'll be in it no matter what, to find out, whether it gets light, dark, what have you. They want to know what happens to this character.
Unless it's a fade to black sex scene that a reader says is a sex scene.
At least I won't be criticized for that. Yeah.
This guy read the equivalent of about 300,000 words of my book. Got to a scene where one character kissed another, and then faded to black 2 lines later, and he quit the book before it faded to black.
Oh. I don't fade to black. I don't fade to black until someone's at a climax.
The only reason, there's 2 reasons I fade to black. Right? One is that is in the readership that I have, I will lose a lot of readers, and I want to have the readers. And 2, I can't write them. That's actually the main one. I can't write them. So I get really, even if I'm writing it, it's nothing to do with getting embarrassed or read, or I literally just can't write it.
I made the artistic choice to know, going into it knowing that a certain number of readers would not be interested in that material, and a certain age range of readers would not be accessible to. Yeah,
I cut my teeth on some really raunchy fan fiction, and my first little IV injection of fame was a fan fiction that was hella funny and a little embarrassing when I was a teenager. And I think when I made the choice that it's like, people aren't going to like it, but fuck it. I'm here. If this is going to be my career, I can't hold back on the things that I want, or else why am I here? What am I doing?
I will say in Ryan's favor, in Ryan's defense, it is incredibly hard to write good sex scene, because literally one wrong word can turn something from being sexy into completely stupid, just like instantaneously. It is very hard to write.
It's like my opinions on food and fantasy, where it's like, if you don't care, please don't write it, because the reader can tell that you don't care and it sucks. Mm-hmm. But and so if you don't want to, I respect that, and absolutely, you made the right choice for your career.
But that's it. It's the big one. It's more than anything else.
What do you?
It's not something that I have a passion for writing. There's a lot of love and emotions and everything to do it in my book, and there's a lot of really deep. But yeah, I know. But when it comes to writing that, I'm not very good at writing. I know I'm not. It's not a strength that I have.
I'll help you. We'll release the director's cut one day.
But it is also it's one. I
want to get to one more question before we wrap up here. Actually, I guess
5 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have 2 questions that I'd like to get to. So
let's make it 4.
So how do you keep your characters distinct from each other as far as character traits and personality as a whole, especially making sure that, like, quite often each POV chapter will have a very distinct feel to it. And so how do you kind of create those differences in whether it be their dialogue or like how they think in between dialogue, etc.?
The core thing that I look at when I'm looking at a character is I try to zero in on two important things to the character. One is how they see the world. Is how they see the world revolve completely around the care and maintenance of cats? Is how they see the world completely revolved around racing cars? Is how they see the world revolve around sword fighting? Does it revolve around drinking or going out and having fun? Does it involve taking money or acquiring wealth or power? Like, what is the lens they see the world through? And then the second thing I look at is how the character feels about themselves, because one thing that a lot of people that I think separates a good author from an average author is if they can project how that character feels about themselves. And everybody in this group is good at presenting that information. But those are the two key things. And then from there, you just add on little things rotating around it, like like what Ryan was referencing earlier about the little ticks and traits and things to make them more human. And I did not miss Ryan's joke about. I did hear that. I was listening. People don't think I listen. I do pick up on that. I pick up on raunchy humor.
Sometimes you gotta replace the lubricant.
I'm terrible with raunchy humor. I have a bad habit of doing it. I'm trying very hard to be good here, you guys. You're trying to drag me. You're trying to drag me back into myself. But anyway, long story short, I focus on those two things big time, and then that gives the back. Then from there, everything else they do goes through those lenses. Like I have a character who is supremely confident and loves himself to the nth degree. Nothing can get this character down. So even terrible things happening, he views through that lens, and it comes across. And then I have another character who hates themselves, and everything they view and everything that happens in the world, they view through the fact that person does not like themselves, and
if you don't put a
trying to cope
character
with
in that specifically cares about the maintenance of cats, I'm done.
I have promised and vowed that there will be animal companions introduced by book 3.
No. Maintenance of cats.
And one of them will be a cat, and there may or may not be a character who accidentally starts a religion that 60 years in the future will be a religion devoted to the care and maintenance of cats.
If you can't tell, I'm getting slightly buzzed on whiskey at 10 a.m. So
have another.
I could not tell at all. I could not tell.
You don't have a job to go to, right?
I want to bounce it over to Holly to answer the question so that Holly! She can get an answer in.
I think slightly strangely for me, I almost made it more of a challenge in terms of character building, because I very deliberately wanted to have a protagonist who was an introverted character and who is very insular and very reflective and kind of inwardly focused. So for me, I wasn't working with a character that has any huge personality traits. He doesn't have these kind of flamboyant physical things that he does. He's a very kind of quiet person. And from the reviews and the feedback that I got, it's very much splitting. People either absolutely loved it and they really, really got the character, or they thought he was really boring and dull and just didn't kind of get on board with it at all. But I think when I was writing him, because he was so introverted and so reflective, it actually gave me a lot of opportunities to almost internally monologue with him as well. So in terms of building his character, it was more about how he moves and he kind of reacts to other people rather than what he does in himself. So I have a lot of flamboyant characters that are around him. So like you mentioned Mandego earlier, he's really theatrical, he's really flamboyant, and it gives my main character this complete juxtaposition against the rest of the world that's around him. And so for any readers who have experienced that sensation of not quite fitting in with the world or being surrounded by loud, boisterous people when you're maybe more of a quieter person, I can see Krystle's face here.
Wait, are we acting out your book right now?
She's Vanguard.
Is this role play?
You know how Krystle was saying earlier about how you write yourselves into the characters. So clearly this was foreshadowing for this question. That's what it was.
And the people who don't understand the value of writing a character that was more introverted just clearly weren't your audience, because it's important, not every hero needs to be as obnoxious as Ryan and me and Thomas. Some heroes are beautiful and elegant and softly spoken, but will fucking kill you, like Holly.
Did you just say, was all that aimed at Holly, or?
Yes.
Holly will fucking kill you.
I mean, Vanguard is beautiful and elegant.
With the pink gin in one hand.
Yeah, right.
I got in trouble because I was trying to do photos for you, and I put Vanguard and vegetables because he doesn't drink.
Do you know what? I'm still disappointed that didn't take off. But the new book, the latest hashtag is people have started hashtagging it as hand boner. So I'm more worried that that's going to take off.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Yes. Yes.
You'll have the male audience for sure.
Speaking of stuff like that, I'm really curious, Krystle, how did your book become like this huge like coaster thing? Like, where did that start? Where everybody was putting their cups on the book.
Krystle has a small desk. That's the whole thing.
Oh, really?
No, I don't think it started with me. I think that was Ben. Yeah, it started with Brightwash and Booze, and so he, as a joke, did like Brightwash and Booze, but he put his cup on the book, and I was like,
I thought it was a reaction to one of your. Didn't you post a picture of when you debuted a picture of your book with the whiskey?
Yeah. Well, and somebody made a comment about how there's a lot of drinking in my book. Because I'm writing from personal experience. So the Brightwash and Booze thing started, and then Ben put his whiskey on the book.
On it. Mm.
Yeah, and Sarah from Fiction Fans had a small aneurysm because she believes in respecting books like a good person, but me and Ben don't care because I got his money no matter what he does to the book.
and if he damages it, you'll get his money twice.
Exactly, he'll buy a second one. So then it became a thing that he was antagonizing her specifically, and then it just
okay.
Twitter.
I'm glad to finally know.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is kind of the question that sparked the idea for this video is, more and more lately I've been doing these just kind of like spoiler-free reviews where it's just me in front of a camera, like a non-podcast episode. And what I've been trying to do is trying to balance them with both positive feedback and critical feedback. Even on like my 10 out of 10 like favorite books, I'm trying to kind of balance those in there so that it's all fair. And it got me to thinking, as an author, what is your relationship to reviews? Like, even though they can be hard to read, do critical reviews help you change things and grow as the series goes on? And obviously at the end of the day, you should write whatever you want to write and take reviews kind of with a grain of salt. And that's why we like your books. But if you see a recurring theme in critical reviews, do you ever kind of adapt towards that feedback in your writing at all? Does it ever influence you at all?
I think any author who spent this much time with their book, they know the real flaws. So like, I know the flaws of my books. Okay, there's small other pieces that I might not know and I'll pick up on if I look at some reviews. But in general, like if I look at negative reviews, I probably won't be too surprised with some of it. Like say in the first book, it's classic fantasy and it's a coming of age story. And I'm gonna get comparisons to other things. They're gonna hit me for lack of originality with certain things, and I know they will. Sure. And that's okay because I didn't write it to break boundaries and make a new, original, completely different story. I wrote it to create a warm feeling for adults in an escapism fantasy that I had when I was a kid. And I wanted to, when you think of books that you read beforehand, nobody go, oh, I really want to read that again. And you read it again and it just doesn't live up to what you had, that magic you had as a kid. I wanted to be able to get that as an adult. I wanted to actually have that kind of feeling. You can go back and read the book and it does live up. And so I knew what that flaw was. And I can imagine anyone does. Like when you read it, the bigger ones, you know it when you're releasing it. A lot of them are intentional. So it does depend. I think the problems can lie when there's some reviews that they're not critical in a constructive sense. They're just attacking.
Right.
And it depends on the person and it depends on how they view their own confidence. Because in any creative craft, your confidence in what you're doing balances completely on the opinion of others. And it can be tough for a lot of people. And it was tough very tough for me at the start as well. I was seeing some things, and it can be a balance. I love now, like I got a review there the other day, and it was really well balanced, and they thought it out. And I typically don't go through the Amazon reviews anymore, but when a reviewer goes, I did all the time when I started, but when a reviewer goes and does a review.
How long have you been at it? About a year, right?
About a year.
You're talking like a seasoned veteran here. I used to, but now.
But I think of it like at the start, like a year ago, like every time they're going up, because it's the first book's at like 1,300 reviews now. So there's a lot of them to look at. And in that there's going to be loads of shit ones. Because with number of reviews comes more shit ones. Right. So we're going to look at them, and they're hard. Like I got one guy I was opening up my beta team one time, and I got one guy onto the beta team, and seemed really nice, and he came on and he left more comments on the first page of the beta than every single other beta reader for the entire book combined. Whoa. He shredded the whole thing and completely, but it was just the fact that I was very happy with this book, and I was just doing an extra piece to it, and I was confident what I was doing. But if I was a newer author, I would have been obliterated. If that was my first book, I might not have released it. And so there is those. I think it's tough when people go to balance it. But if a reviewer goes and puts up a review, like a video review, or they post it and tag me in it, it's a good review, I will read it. And I will usually try to take on board. Most of the time, I'm not surprised with the negative critique, because you spend so long with your book, and you see the flaws. The editor will point the flaws. Mm-hmm. Yeah, most of them that you've left in are going to be, you've left them in because you can't see a way to create your artistic vision while removing them.
Mm-hmm. Or you're trying to make a point.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why I was talking about making informed choices. Mm-hmm. Where I knew personally certain things weren't going to go over well with some people, but it was an informed choice that I was making, because if I was going to make a career out of this novel in this world, it had to be reflective of who I am. And I was tired of hiding certain parts of who I am. And so I was willing to maybe sacrifice pieces of a market in order to write a book that was truer to the career that I wanted to build. And so a lot of the times, my most critical reviews are about the romance or about the inclusion of queer characters. And then another one was a DNF on somebody because Tasha was a cop. And so those choices I made, knowing that it wouldn't work for some people, but I couldn't hide anymore. I had to be myself if this was going to be a long-term thing. And so for that, I was very fortunate that when I launched that book, I just so happened to hit people that were ready to understand what I was trying to say. And so watching them understand it gave me armor, so that as my career progresses, people who are not understanding what I'm trying to say, and often sometimes present the point that I'm trying to make as a flaw rather than a feature, it doesn't hit me as hard, because I know I made those choices on purpose. And if someone is uncomfortable,
if you can find your niche readership early, first, it can really help your confidence, because I think one of the biggest things I would say to anyone who's starting out, when you're trying to get feedback, even from beta readership, anything, is all feedback isn't equally as important. Feedback is the people who are your target, because like with that, if you get feedback from someone who is homophobic,
I've gotten that few.
It's not going to be useful feedback, and it's finding the people that you wrote the book for.
Right. It's exactly. Storytelling feedback that you're looking for. That's the stuff. Like if somebody doesn't get, like if somebody's like, this part moved really slow and was kind of plodding along, that's going to make me go, oh man, a lot more.
Yeah, that was a pacing
issue. Than if somebody said, oh, this book had two people having sex in it. I don't like that.
Only two, Thomas?
If you don't find those readers early, it can make you feel like it's the problem that you should not have written this, which obviously is not the case.
A
But
friend of mine,
it's hard to find that.
a friend of mine has gone through that where he signed up for a blog tour, and like I'm not sure exactly what happened, but his book hit the wrong market, and so he debuted with about a 3-star average, because his book went into the hands of people who weren't going to follow him through his journey, and I know it had a really negative impact on him. And hopefully his next books are going to he understands more about how to market what he's done and how to access his own market. But
it's
sometimes
when
understanding
you
what your own work is and how to
yes,
describe it is one of the hardest things
yes,
to do, because it's very difficult to distill all of this huge undertaking that you did down into
especially
what
at
is going to
300,000
attract
words.
the people who like it. Yeah, exactly. I agonized over my one-line pitch for probably 6 months. I agonized over the title of my book for 6 months. Like so because I wanted it to, the kind of people who wanted to read that kind of book, I wanted it to go to those people. And so I tried to make my cover like I conceptualized what I wanted my artist to do with my cover the way that I thought would best guide it towards the people who wanted that kind of material. All of those aspects of it, I tried really hard, because I specifically wanted to avoid running into just people who were not interested in that. Like, I come right out and say all the time how chonky my book is, because I know people who don't like hefty books. I want them to know ahead of time what they're getting into. People who don't want to read dark themes, like the first opening line of my synopsis is a drug addict who hunts sorcerers. I want people to know right off the bat that there are heavy adult themes in this book, so that somebody doesn't accidentally buy it for their 9-year-old for Christmas.
Right.
That's why I come right out and put that out there for that reason. Because what Krystle was saying, like that, there are a number of people who have had that problem, but beta reader feedback is far more valuable than reviewer feedback, because you don't know where the reviewer is coming from.
Well, and as the reviews come in, you can kind of triage them. Like, if a review says something made them uncomfortable and that was what you were trying to do, then it's a success, even if they don't necessarily understand that you were trying to go there. So it's even a negative review, if they're talking about how uncomfortable certain things made them, and that was your point, then
you still win.
Some bad reviews become
Thomas,
positive because they
Thomas,
bring it home. What? I'm sorry, who was talking?
Holly.
I thought I was interrupting you and Ryan. Holly, please go.
Holly.
Please, Holly, go.
I was just going to say, I think we've probably all been in the situation where I think you get to that stage where all of a sudden you realise that all of the 1 and the 2-star reviews you have, where people are kind of like, pointing out things that they didn't like, and then you look at like your 5-star reviews and they're pointing out the exact same things.
Yes.
And it's just, the more that somebody like hates something that you do, you can guarantee the more someone else is going to that's going to be the thing they're going to celebrate about your work.
Yeah.
Inspiring passion in readers is what we're here for. And
you don't have a review that just goes meh.
Those are the ones that
you want, those like emotions and that reaction where people are going to feel strongly.
Right.
Yeah. And
the consensus that I'm kind of seeing here is that like critical reviews are good, but you want to make sure that they're coming from people who are your people when it comes to people who understand your book and are giving constructive feedback, as opposed to I didn't like the 2 gay characters or whatever. You know what I mean?
Well, I forgot what I was going to say. So you.
God damn it, Krystle.
What I was going to say is, I think when you're writing, like I write in a really commercial genre. I'm lucky. It's a much broader reader base, and it just happens to be what I like. I like to write that, and it's just it's lucky. It makes it easier. When you're in a more niche genre, when you're writing what Holly's writing, something darker and something grittier, and when you're writing what Krystle's writing with the romance, you're bringing LGBTQ into it, you're bringing loads of different ranges into it. It's like trying to market with a sack of bricks on your back. You got to work harder. You got to find those people, and it takes longer, and it's way tougher. But the results can be way better, because you're connecting with fireworks.
Right.
You're hitting people and you're really resonating in their heart because the themes you're playing with are massive.
The readers that feel validated and acknowledged, and the readers that understand, it's magic. It's I'm gonna get emotional now. It's worth it. And that's why I made those choices, knowing that I was gonna take shit. And I wouldn't have it any other way, because the people that have said that they felt included in a genre that doesn't always include them has been worth it. And so, and then even a critical review where it's like they point out a weak spot that I have, like I know my pacing kind of gets meandering, and so if somebody points it out, it's like, yeah, I know, I agree, but I couldn't figure out any other way to get.
That's craft. And that will keep getting better with everything you write, and that will keep changing and tuning.
Exactly. And we as writers bring a lot of emotional baggage to what we read or what we write. And then people as readers bring a lot of who they are to engage with us. And sometimes that emotional sense of self comes together really well, and it makes a beautiful harmony, and people get it. But sometimes it clashes, and that's just part of what we do. Like we cannot, like Thomas said at the opening, we cannot please everyone. It's impossible. And so usually when somebody points out something they didn't like, they for me at least, it's like, yeah, I know. So yeah, that hopefully that answers your question.
Sure. That's a great place to that's a great way to wrap us up there. So what do you guys think? Do we have a little bit of time to play this game, or do we want to wrap it up here?
I want to see what Thomas's lies are.
I don't have anything prepared.
I missed what half the people said.
I want to know what people's lies are.
Okay. All right. Let's do it. All right, everybody. So this game is basically a game that I stole from Jimmy Fallon called True Confessions. It's basically kind of like two truths and a lie, except you only have one truth and one lie. We have them labeled on sheets of paper, if I can find mine. And basically what we're doing is someone will hold up, can't even really see it, I guess, but someone will hold up their sheets of paper. We'll choose one or two, whichever one corresponds. Then they will read that. That statement is either a truth or a lie. The rest of the group, right after they read that, the rest of the group will have, what do we think? Maybe a minute and a half to ask questions about them. And the whole point is to try to break their statement down and to get them to slip up. So if it's a lie, like if they're reading a lie, you want to ask them questions to like try to get them to like slip up and be like, I don't remember, what's that?
I don't have the papers, but I'll go first. I'll give you all three of the ones that I came up with. You guys can have a blast with them.
So, okay. So
he's not
Just
following
no,
you just want to? Okay.
So, well,
this isn't a novel, Thomas. You can't just keep expanding the word count.
I guess so the
yeah,
whole point.
That 300K.
Sorry, Spencer. Sorry.
So so label them in your head. We have to choose between. Or I guess you can just choose which one to say, and we'll try to guess. But the whole point is to read one, and we're supposed to guess if it's a lie or a truth. If that makes sense.
I got one.
I've had a lot of whiskey for this, man.
You're drinking Guinness.
No, I switched to whiskey after the first Guinness was gone. I've got
from the water. Are you drinking whiskey from a fucking flask? That's not what I saw. Oh.
Yeah, I also have water because I'd like to not
that's a
fall
lot
off
of
my
whiskey.
chair. Yeah.
All right, somebody go.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys want me to go first?
Yes, please.
Fuck you, Spencer.
I'll start a minute. Okay, so choose one or two.
I say two.
Two?
No, Holly said 1, and we have to listen to Holly because no
Okay,
one.
that's fair. 1. That's fair.
1?
Yep.
Sir, back off. Thank you.
Okay. I'm starting.
I have a very long
Okay.
dog. I'm sorry.
I'm starting a 1.5-minute timer now. You have 90 seconds to ask me questions about this once I read this.
Quick math.
I once fell over 30 feet and got up without a scratch.
What did you fall off?
A ladder.
Were you
How
just
much
you were just working
Did
construction?
you hit?
Yep. Working construction
Where was this?
How?
at the customer's house, Seattle.
What were you doing specifically on the ladder?
Repairing fascia at the top of a eave.
Were you wearing a top hat?
No.
How much did you hit on the way down?
How many stories was the house?
He has
3.
to answer my question. How much shit did you hit on the way down?
My foot tapped the ladder on the way down, but otherwise nothing else.
Was it grass
How did-
below you or concrete or what?
It was grass
How did you land? Like,
on my back.
Oh gosh. Man, 30 feet more than 12 feet is a fatal fall. So like that seems wild.
I mean,
Three-story house.
the Air Force jumps out of helicopters at that height.
Yeah, but they're like trying to like
Wait,
duck and
hold on.
roll,
The
man.
Yeah,
The Air Force-
it's true.
Air Force
Yeah,
are
it's
trained
flat.
to land,
Not on their back.
not on their
Not
backs.
on their back. Yeah, sure.
And a 3-story house just about hits 30 feet if you're falling off the roof, not off a ladder.
I hate ladders, man. I know that's not a question, but like,
Was it like a straight fall down, or did the ladder just kind of go with you? Was it like,
Did
Yeah.
you drift?
The time's up. All right, everybody.
He's trying to ask the question. You have to answer the last one. We need to know. Was it
yeah,
slow
or did the ladder
motion?
fall with you, or did you fall literally off the ladder?
So it did not fall with me. The ladder was the ladder was at way too steep of an angle. I
You fell backwards or sideways.
Backwards.
How?
Time's up.
What?
Time's up.
What the fuck were you
Definitely
doing
not.
that you fell?
Mm-mm.
Assuming that the
Yeah, I'm
statement
gonna
I'm gonna
30
guess
feet,
truth.
assuming that the statement 30
I'm
feet is
saying
actually
true.
accurate, I would say lie.
We have 2 trues.
Man,
I don't trust ladders, man. I would say lie. Yeah. My dad fell from a lot lower of a height and broke his ankle, so I don't know.
There's 2 things that has me here. Right, 1, if you said the ladder is at a steep angle, there's no way you fell backwards. So the ladder couldn't have been at a steep angle because you'd want to have the balance of
He's
like
gonna
of
say
a
truth
flying
now.
dizzy kitten. But also, it depends how accurate 30 feet is. If it's actually at 30 feet, then it's a lie. But if you're just saying it's around 30 feet, it could be true. Okay, I'm still gonna go with lie.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go fly too.
Yep, it's a lie.
Aha!
Right.
Yeah.
The ladder angle is
But-
what got me. There's no way with center of balance if you have a steep angle of a ladder.
Yeah,
you'll fall
that's the
off.
part that got me too. Because like
Because if your ladder is straight, then you can come off balance and fall backwards.
I would believe that I would have believed it if the whole ladder
What
came
is
with
this?
you.
Yeah, great.
This will be our
No,
new,
but
our
I
power
did
system.
I did have a there was a guy I knew that there was a guy I knew who fell, I want to say 40 feet out of a tree, and I don't know how exactly, but
Fucking big tree.
yeah, and because he's a tree climber, he like limbs trees for a living, and there was a whole crowd of people that saw this happen, and I know most of them personally, and they were like, yep, he fell 40 feet and lived, and so that's what made me think of that lie. So I'm also gonna read, I think like whether we say our lie or our truth, whichever one we say, we should tell each other whatever the truth was too. My crazy truth was I was carjacked when I was 17, high on mushrooms in my brand new Mustang.
No, not the Mustang.
You had a new Mustang at 17?
Yeah, I was a bit spoiled.
What the fuck did my parents do with their lives?
Microsoft.
I didn't even have a car till I was 21.
I don't think I think I learned to drive when I was
Did you look around to see if somebody was going to
I love how the thing you guys are. I love how the things you guys are stuck on is that I had a Mustang, not that I was carjacked.
Life's hard, man. Like I've lived in some pretty rough neighborhoods in my life. I've got but like having a Mustang. What year was the Mustang?
I still want a Mustang.
Like
Mustang.
No, I wanted to shut up. I wanted to answer my question. What year was the Mustang?
It was an 06, I think.
Not a classic, but like those were pretty expensive.
But it was pretty brand new at that stage, I'm assuming, because I don't know how old you are, but if you're going back to 17.
I'm going to be right back. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
No.
I have to service and maintain a cat real quick.
Is it a cat or is it a pussy?
Holly and Krystle recommend a short story about this as a collab.
Yeah, I was.
And welcome to Thomas Maintains a Pussy.
Oh my God.
Will we keep going with it, Thomas, or we just chill? Or what are we doing?
Oh, here it is.
That was a quickly maintained cat.
And now Krystle's gone. Okay, so we get like how the game works now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thomas.
Sorry, I had to fill a cat bowl. Our cat Earl, if his glass water dish gets below half full, he lets me know by nudging it with a paw across the floor until he puts it right in the middle of a hallway where somebody will step on it. So I have to.
So you're serious about servicing a cat?
I serviced Earl's water dish and made sure that it was full, so he wouldn't push it into the path of where my son might walk.
I thought I didn't realize that you said cat bowl. I thought you said cat hole. And I thought that story was going a completely different direction.
Well, I'm not going to say anything because that's like giving me a gun already loaded.
All right, so Thomas and everybody, do we understand how the game works now? We see how it's played.
I do. I feel bad now though that you can't juxtapose all three of the scenarios side by side to try to guess.
Thomas,
but
it's not enough. We can't do it.
He sent us a video. He sent us a video on how it was going to work, and none of us looked at it. And it was like, yeah, I can lie. Yeah, that's
fine. Oh my God. Okay. Who's next?
Who's next?
Go, Thomas.
Okay. Okay. All right. Did my friends and I, or did we not, make and sell fake tickets to a fake concert festival with fake imaginary made up band names when we were in high school?
How did you market the tickets?
How did you market the tickets? Just by
we were just going to sell them around school, like sell them out of our backpack.
Okay, school. So you were like in high school, teenagers?
Correct.
Did anyone buy them?
Yes.
Was everyone in your school a little bit not okay in the head?
I mean, it's Thomas, so.
How many tickets did you sell?
They were at least as sane as I am, Ryan. How many tickets did we sell? 50.
Do they have Google in your school?
No, he's old.
I don't even know if they had. I don't even know if they had viable internet when I was in school. So when we bought concert tickets when I was in high school, you had to queue up at a department store and wait in line for them to give you a physical ticket.
Ticketmaster or whatever.
What kind of bands?
We had several notable made-up bands, such as Electric Fish Hammer, Rectal Breakfast, and Nickelback.
And Nickelback.
What happened after the fact? What happened when they found out there was no band?
Good question.
We hightailed it out of there, buddy.
What year was this?
I just never came back.
You never saw them at school again?
What year was this?
Senior year, I only had a half day of classes.
So
I would leave before the end of the day, before any of those other students could get out.
I want the specific year.
Well, that's the one thing that has to be true, because he can just give you his actual last year of high school.
Yeah, I was in high school. My final year of high school
Yeah.
was 96, 97.
All right.
Okay, so what you're telling us,
that's time.
you're telling us is on your last day of high school, you sold 50 tickets to a made-up concert to people who bought 50 tickets without knowing any of the bands or any of the places.
I never said it was the last day of school. It was just
So
the
you
last
hightailed
semester.
and never came back to school then.
I need to know how these were printed, these fake tickets.
Yeah, the
He
inkjet.
called time,
Yeah,
man.
time's up. That's true.
I asked
True.
before time. I asked before
Okay.
time.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
did
true.
you?
But
Okay.
then me and Ryan were rude.
Yeah, go for it.
with a laser dot matrix printer.
Dot matrix, man, those were the days.
That's
Ryan,
a bit
how old are you
right.
again?
I was picturing like some, he used to use like paint, like Microsoft Paint.
I'm assuming you don't mean hand paint.
All right. What do we think, guys? I vote lie.
I think
I
it's a
think
lie.
true. I think true.
Oh, truth.
Okay.
If it is true, I need to make the statement right now. You went to a high school with the highest population of stupid people.
Well, isn't that high school? Don't you remember what high school was like?
We
So-
called
There's
it
no way
Lollapalooza
50
B.
people in my senior year, who was in
Lollapalooza.
18-year-olds, 50 of them bought tickets.
This is
concerts,
America
and
you're
they had
talking
never
about,
heard any
Ryan.
bands ever.
This is America we're talking about, just so we're clear.
Okay, that is fair. You have
He
raised valid
came.
points.
He obviously
right,
was out of
Thomas.
high school of people with money.
Okay,
Because
so you
at
want me
my
to
high
do the
school-
So we
you
got-
want me to
we
do
got
the drum
three-
roll?
3 lies and 2 truths. What do you say, Thomas?
Okay, you want the drum roll or whether it's a lie or truth?
Yeah.
Just fucking tell us.
Okay. We did not get access to the printer to print the tickets.
Oh, so you planned it.
But we did
You're
plan
a
that whole
dickhead. This
thing.
is half a
And
lie?
we did market it to people that it was coming and that we quote unquote could totally get the tickets to it for you.
Okay.
So the only thing that fell through was that we did not get access to the
You
kind
didn't
of
get to
printer
print
that we
out
could print. We had some sheets like that. Somebody's brother or something had stolen a big page of uncut ticket.
Yeah.
You know, those blank like
Is
concert
this
tickets.
like a really long-winded way of saying it's a lie?
It is a lie.
Yeah, it's a lie. Yeah.
It's
So
not
what
so
was
many
the-
tickets.
Ryan,
not-
babe.
What was the
Ryan,
truth?
babe.
It was a
Hold on.
heist. It was a heist that never made it past the planning stages. So
Right.
Ryan, babe, he writes 300K.
But it's so funny because when you were telling that right there and then, I went, I totally understand how you're hitting 300K.
All right. So what was the truth you had written or whatever?
Me and my friends used to break into parking garages in the middle of the night and sword fight wearing all black and giant brass skull cod pieces.
You
All
see,
right.
wow.
That was the truth.
Oh
That's the story
man.
we needed. That,
That's
I
the
can't
story
believe
we
you
Well,
did
see,
not
that's,
for that one.
Yeah.
I figured you guys would guess that as the truth too easily because it was sword related. So I didn't want to, and then the other one was just something about that I thought it was just about like, do I or do I not have force powers and the Jedi mind trick force power, but only to convince people to not notice when I take the wristbands that say I'm old enough to drink when I'm at an Irish rock festival.
Oh.
Remember when we talked
would
about
you-
earlier, I said you want to make your character flaw so specific. Like, because it's so specific that it defines who the character is. That was the single most specific thing I think I've ever heard of.
That is my true Jedi power, Ryan, is to be able to
The
do that.
area, speaking of Irish festivals, the area that I live in is so heavily Scottish that we went to like a St. Paddy's, whatever, Irish something or other. And the band did such a good job, but literally everyone who got up to the dance floor to dance did Highland jigs or Highland fling at
You
the
are aware
Irish.
that Scotland and Ireland are different places, yeah?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It's like our area doesn't even know how to pretend to be Irish. So when it was time to dance, they didn't know what to do. So
They're all dressed in red. They have no idea.
No, blue. How fucking dare you? Blue, sir. Blue.
They're like, we're supposed to be sober today. We're supposed to wear blue.
At least the drunkenness carries over between the two cultures. So that we were spot on.
All right, who's next with their truth and lies?
I think I should go next because I've lulled everyone now into a full sense of security where I've been really quiet all night. So this has been my tactic all along. Like
I killed someone.
Let's do it.
Truth. Fucking truth.
I fucking knifed a guy.
She knows all of our passwords now. Like she's just been listening. Yeah. She knows how to access our account.
She's been hacking.
She's just been letting us go on, and now she's going to take control.
Oh, by the way, Thomas, you might want to get rid of all that cat porn.
Everything I need to know.
All right, one or two, guys.
One.
Krystle's dead.
Okay.
Did you fall, Krystle?
That was my Jedi mind power.
There you go.
I made that happen.
Yeah, you knocked me out. I'm done.
You do you.
Yeah.
You do you.
I've turned this one over now, so this one's happening. Okay, so I am a self-taught balloon sculptist.
Oh shit.
When did you learn how to do this, and who from?
It was YouTube. I learned it about 4 or 5 years ago because I was basically working for a charity and I wanted something cool to be able to do at events. What was the question?
What can you make out of balloon? Like what animals can you make out of balloons?
Giraffes, poodles. I can do swords. I can do hats. I can do the two-tone hats where you have 2 balloons in one.
Okay.
What charity?
How long did it take you to learn?
About 2 days. But it was like 2 intense days. It was like literally. It was.
No, I believe she's not smart.
It was an all-night
Put your eyebrows away.
You made a no.
Charity?
That's nothing to do with intelligence in any way, shape, or form. If you can make a giraffe out of balloons in 2 days,
she's amazing. Get out. What charity?
It was for a cancer charity.
Which one?
It was for cancer research, the big one in the UK.
What's
like the main one?
What's the name of the charity?
Big one?
The name of the charity is Cancer Research.
Did you ever have to make a balloon animal for an adult?
Yeah, loads. Like more adults wanted them than kids. Like, especially swords. Swords was the popular one.
For Thomas. Swords and cats for Thomas.
This is tough. Because I really believe you could have done this, but the fact you are calling the charity Cancer Research is the name of the charity.
Yeah, it's where we fall apart.
Kind of the loser here.
It's literally called Cancer Research UK. The name.
Maybe that's the ADHD energy.
All right, what do we think?
I don't know. I believe her, but I might be biased because I think she's awesome.
I know. Yeah, I want to believe. Hard.
Okay, I think it's true.
All right, true.
She's gonna say lie, and we're all broken.
True too. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it?
It is 100% true.
Oh,
awesome.
100% true.
Awesome.
That's great.
Okay, then I'm gonna be in the UK in September. I want a giraffe.
Okay, not a sword, a giraffe.
A fucking giraffe. I imagine the complexities of a giraffe are far more intricate than a sword.
A giraffe is just a poodle with a longer neck.
Make a hat for me and give it to Ryan, and take a picture so that I can appreciate my hat on Ryan's beautiful head.
Yeah.
What was the lie?
On my head. I'm going to stroke the hat.
The lie was that I once gave my friend a really bad shark tattoo at a party.
Oh.
Because the real truth is, it was a really good shark tattoo at a party.
Yeah.
Twist.
No, the truth is, it wasn't me that did the really bad shark tattoo. It was me that was next to the person doing it, going, "That's really shit."
This is a bad idea. Please stop.
Yeah. I was that person.
All right. Either Ryan or Krystle, you want to read one of yours?
Ryan.
I don't have any to read, so I just.
Yeah, just pick one.
Okay. I once punched a fish.
Okay, what kind of fish?
I 100%
have no
believe that
fucking
already.
100%.
Yeah, I know.
this
He's
happened.
Irish.
This
It's true.
happened.
He punched it. He punched the
I have no
fish.
idea what fish it was.
What lake did you get it from? What
I don't
source
It
know.
was
was
in
it?
the ocean.
It wasn't in a lake. It was in the sea, and it was in Cuba.
I thought he was going to say it was in a bar. It was in the middle. I was at a bar and he was sitting in the stool next to me, and
It was
he
at
said the wrong
O'Connor's down the
thing.
street.
He said something
And-
bad about my football team, and I let him have it.
He said something
yeah,
about
why-
the Irish. The
It was in the
Irish
fish
flame.
tank, and I just.
Why
That
why did
drunk
motherfucker
were you?
deserved it.
yeah.
Huh?
What kind of fish, Ryan?
I don't have a fucking clue what kind of fish.
What color was it?
Why'd you
What
punch it?
were you
Dude.
doing? What were you doing at
Why?
such a tropical locale, sir?
I was
Yeah.
scuba diving and also
You
snorkeling.
fucker.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
no, hang on. Those two things are so different.
no, they are. They are.
No,
They are.
No.
They are. Okay. But you do the scuba diving and you come back and they take pictures of you with fish feed and snorkeling because the fish are near the surface of the water. So
Mhm.
there's no point you having scuba. Well, you have a scuba gear on your back, but you don't have all the shit on your head. You have the snorkel because you want to stay just below the water, so they can take pictures of you and they drop the fish feed into the water, and the fish go. And they
Okay,
take
so the
pictures.
question I have is, are you
Last
the
one.
type of person where the scuba suit is flattering or was it embarrassing?
No, nothing should ever cling to my body. I'm not comfortable in it.
Stand up, I want to see.
All right, so truth or lies?
I'll say truth.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
go truth.
Yeah.
Man punches anything is true. I'm always going to go with truth on that.
Yeah, truth.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have questions about the physics, but I don't know. I think he'd take a swing at a fish and maybe he's
Physics.
yeah, like it's hard to take a swing
It
like
was
that.
hard. That's
underwater,
why it
yeah.
was so satisfying.
And it was
I
still
don't know.
there. I'm gonna say man takes a swing at innocent object is the truth.
Okay. So will I reveal?
Yeah.
Okay. So it is true.
Oh.
And I was about 15 or 16, and we were off the
Oh,
coast.
that's
We were doing like our snorkeling and shit, right? And they dropped all the fish feed in, and the fish just swarmed like crazy. But they kept like fucking hitting me in the face and shit. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like that. And then all of us, but I wasn't expecting it because you know the way like if you see a bird on the road and you're driving, it will move. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It's like the law of physics. The bird will fly away. I was like, the fish is obviously going to evade because like Krystle said, the physics, you have inertia going through water. There's no way I'm going to get it. And then I was like,
I got that fish.
he was fine because obviously I didn't pack any real punch underwater.
All right, Krystle, you're up.
Okay, so the context for it is I have there's 6 of us in our family, me and my husband, 4 children. So did I or did I not spend 6 months camping with no electricity, no cookware? Fucking camping.
My internet
in
kind
the
of cut out there,
summer.
so I missed most of what you had said.
Oh, okay.
If it's any consolation, I think you're great.
I love you too, honey. Okay, so I have a
That
family
was
of
his
6.
lie, though.
Let her say it.
I have a family of 6 for context, me and my husband, and then 4 children. So the question, yeah, I know. And so the question, you know why I insulted them at the beginning of this podcast. There's a lot
I
of them.
do if I had 4.
So the question is, did we or did we not spend 6 months camping with the 6 of us with, no electricity, no house, no nothing, just us, tents, and the wilderness?
What was the reason? Was it just a choice that you made? Like, hey, I want to do this, or was it circumstantial? Or
We bought property that didn't have a house on it,
okay,
and then we decided fucking all or nothing. And so we moved to the property with no house on it, and the solution was tents.
so was the house like being built while you were staying there, or?
We bought the house next door
Oh, okay,
eventually.
gotcha.
How did you wipe?
Toilet paper. What do you mean? How did we wipe?
Hold on,
Toilet
Krystle.
paper exists even if you don't have electricity. Yes,
Krystle,
Ryan.
are you currently living in the house you were building?
We didn't build it, we bought it. And yes, I'm currently living in the house that we bought.
Well, but you said it was an empty plot of land with no house on it.
And well, she bought the one
25
next
acres.
door.
Yeah, we bought the house we bought the house next door to the 25 acres that we bought first.
Okay, so the house of 25 acres, did you ever build anything on it?
Well, fucking COVID, man. Like, no, there were no builders.
Yeah.
So you own 25 acres.
Mhm.
You camped for 6 months without moving into a house, bought a house, and then didn't build the house you were camping for.
Yeah, well, when you say that, it makes it sound stupid.
Now I think it's true. I think it's true because you could see the regret in Krystle's face. Because initially, the reason I'm not sure is because earlier in this conversation, Krystle said that her and her husband want to build a bar when they finally build.
Oh, you fucker. How dare you have a memory even after you drink?
All right, what do we think? Truth or lie?
Truth.
Yeah, truth. I'll say truth.
Yeah, we're in this stupid house with no doors, which is why you can see my husband. Yeah, there he is.
Why don't you have doors?
Because this house was built in literally 1860.
Before doors, naturally.
So
Do they
the
have toilet paper in
Did they have doors in
1860?
medieval times? The answer is
Did they
no.
still have toilet paper before they invented doors?
So
Did they have doors?
he's sitting in the original, and I'm sitting in the add-on. So these logs are 150 years old, and I fucking hate it. And we're ready to build. But camping was hell, so this is better, or something.
Or something.
But I do find that all the time. I always Google, like, what did they do in medieval times? What was the house made of? What
I
did
can
happen?
let
So,
you
like,
know.
Did they have
Just
doors?
ask-
No, they didn't.
Honey, just ask me, and I can save you the Google.
I currently live
All
there.
right.
Cooking on a campfire sucks. So it has ruined fantasy novels for me because these
You in
people
the
have.
snow?
Yeah, we're in Canada, my
That's
friend.
what I was thinking. You were camping for 6 months in the snow.
We started in early April, and there was still snow on the ground.
Spencer, can you please explain to Krystle how she owes each of her kids a Mustang now?
Yeah.
No, see, we have good taste, so I'll get them a Camaro.
Oh.
I take a Camaro too. Yeah, that's fine. Can you get me a Camaro, please?
No, you weren't camping with us. Like, you can come camp for 6 months, and if you can survive it, then
I was there in
we'll
spirit.
talk about. No, you weren't. No, you weren't.
That's how it was.
All right, Gabe, do you have yours?
Yep, I got mine. One or two.
We're gonna knock you
Ladies
out,
and
Gabe. You
gentlemen.
got this.
One? Is that consensus? Did I or did I not get stuck on one of the longest zip lines in the United States for more than 4 hours?
Where is the
Ooh.
longest zip line in the United States?
Maui. Like Hawaii, Maui.
Okay, how long is it?
I think it's 3,600 feet long and it's like 12 or 1,300 feet above the ground.
Can you say that in Canadian?
Before they realised you were stuck.
How say that again?
Like, I want to know how long you were there before anyone realised you was like. Was there a guy at the bottom being like, "Shit, he's taking a really long time"?
So I got stuck about 120 feet from the bottom because I didn't weigh enough to make it all the way down, and so then they had to get a
I
certified
believe
climber
that.
to climb out to get me, and then drag me back, and it took it was like 4 hours.
I actually thought
So-
Holly asked how long before you realized you were stuck.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not moving anymore.
What kind of angle was it? Really steep down, or was it like really slow and gradual?
So at the beginning it was pretty steep, and then it started to kind of level out. And you slow down towards the end, and I just didn't
Why
have
didn't
enough
they just
like
shake
weight.
the rope?
Yeah, so they tried flinging a rope out for me to catch, but I couldn't catch it. It was too far, and so they had to wait for one of their climbers to come out and attack
Okay.
and walk himself.
And that
out.
took 4 hours?
Yeah. Well, it's like a zip line tour. So you drove an hour off road up through the mountains, and you do 5 zip lines, and then that was the
So
last
what
one.
you're saying is, before you, they never had anyone get stuck on the zip line, and therefore never had any emergency procedures.
I have no idea.
I
have no
I
clue.
believe that because emergency procedures cost money.
Yeah.
Remember in
I
the
don't
US,
believe
I
any
keep
zipline
thinking- I keep
tour
thinking
company
like
would
a-
ever spend
You
money
keep
that they
thinking
didn't
in
have
like
to.
civilized terms where the government takes care of people.
I keep thinking where like if I fall off something and break an arm, I can go to a hospital for free, get done for free, come back
Yeah.
for free.
Not a
Yeah.
chance.
Oh, that
Also-
makes sense.
Not a
And
chance.
also refund
What
my
is that
taxi and
called?
pay for my prescription.
So yeah, something.
What I want to know is when the guy went out to get you, did he like piggyback like down
And
the
then-
zip
and then
line?
Did
just-
he like push you?
Like,
No, so he just clipped in, and I'm still on the zip line, so I'm like movable, right? And you're too low to reach the thing. So he just like he was clipped in and just grabbed me, and inch by inch would just drag me back as he dragged himself back. And then I
What
got
you're
close enough and he
saying
threw
is
the rope.
He wrapped
How
his
did he
arms and
drag
legs around you and just humped you all the way down to the
Yeah.
Kind of, I guess. Although he was on the line, and I was like 6 feet below him, dangling.
Well, when you
So-
put it like
was-
that,
it
There was
Ryan, it
no
sounds
other
so
way
much
you
more
were gyrating
romantic.
someone down.
See, it was the 100-meter hump is what's
Yeah.
what
You
the
just got Krystle very excited.
You just gave Krystle a story for idea for a new novella.
Yeah.
Ryan,
That's-
I
that's
think you're missing your market by avoiding this stuff because I think you have the chops, my friend.
That's gonna be in Brick and Bone. There's gonna be a scene where they have to get from a zip line from point A to point B, but someone gets stuck and they have to hump each other down. It's gonna.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun time.
Oh god.
Wow.
I think it's the truth because it's just so fucking weird that like how do you make this shit up? Either it's the truth or it happened to somebody you know.
a lie. I'm going to lie.
Yeah, I'm going to lie solely in the fact that there would have to be a really extenuating circumstance for you to leave someone stranded on a zip line for 4 hours.
I don't know. I don't have
because-
faith in people.
That's the part I believe
Yeah.
the most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never underestimate how stupid people can be.
I'm super gullible,
Yep,
so I'm gonna go
It's
truth.
true.
I'm gonna go truth.
I'm going to go lie.
Okay, we ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a lie.
You bastard.
Yeah, it was a lie. So I did go down the zip line, and I heard stories of people getting stuck. So that's kind of why I went with it.
Interesting.
So it was
Yeah.
a lie that was inspired by stories.
true-
by
so-
true events, yeah.
If for instance,
It
if
was
like,
Based,
good. It was
based
good
on
one.
the true story.
It was very good.
Well,
if like a
but
ladder, if like a ladder had broken for them to get up to the zip line, I would have believed 4 hours. But like, as in, if someone's sitting there and they work a zip line and it's like
Yeah.
in the middle of nowhere, they have to have their shit ready. It's
Yeah,
not
no,
that
for
they're
I don't know.
cars.
I don't believe that
That
they
was
have
like
their
the-
shit
and-
ready.
And I thought about that
Even
too,
in
and I was like,
America.
that's going to be the flaw. That's going to be the flaw that sets somebody up.
That's
At the very least, they would have just shot you down.
that's the
Yeah.
part. That's
Yeah.
the part that
Shut-
that's the
What
part
is-
that caught me is like I have no faith in people's ability to solve problems.
Yeah.
And you tell
yeah.
she writes Grimdark.
Usually with zipline stuff, they don't want you to have to solve a problem, so they solve the problem before the event. So they should have some way of getting there.
I don't know.
Like a big blanket, and they just shoot the wire.
Yeah, that's the American way.
The expenses
It's
fall
fucked
off the
up.
ladder.
So just shoot it.
You can do
What?
1,300 feet, can't you?
what was the truth, Gabe?
So the truth was on that same trip to Maui. I'm not much of a swimmer, and so I said here, I was swimming and was pulled into a riptide and came very close to drowning, and that was the truth. I had a boogie board, the little wrist strap. That's definitely. I would have died if I didn't have the thing attached to me for sure.
There's the Grimdark story that we
yeah,
needed.
yeah,
That would have been a really
shit.
good one. I wouldn't have been able to tell whether that was true or not.
yeah.
yeah.
The side truth, I once nearly fell into a piranha-infested lagoon.
Oh,
Did you
gosh.
really?
Yeah.
No.
I survived because I fell in the right direction.
That's the Irish story,
I had-
isn't it?
I had
Yeah.
We
these,
survived because we
I
fell
survived because I
away
got
from
lucky.
the danger.
I had these flip-flops, okay? I don't know what you guys call them in America. I think there's flip-flops, like sandals
Yeah.
and strapped around
Flip-flops,
your feet. Yeah, and like basically I had it for like 4 years and there was no grip on the bottom. And we're at the side of this lagoon, it has the piranhas in it.
Flip-flop. Lie. How did you keep flip-flops alive for 4 years?
They weren't alive. This was the issue. This was the problem. Is that
Okay.
basically we were going piranha fishing in South America, and you get this thing that's like an eye, like a piece of wood that's made like the shape of an eye, and they have string wrapped around it and a hook, and you put beef onto it, and you like literally just throw it into the lagoon, and you wait for it to pull, and you tug it as hard as you can, and you pull the piranha out of the water
That's called
through the
fishing,
air at you.
sweetie.
That's how
Whoa.
you
That's
fish.
called
The
fishing.
piranha comes flying at you, okay? And I was doing it. I was like, this is great. And then it's all muddy on the bank. And I just went, and I slipped backwards. The flip-flop went into the lagoon. And I went to go and get it. And the guy just puts his hand across me. And he's like, no, they eat you. I was like, okay.
Was this the same trip where you punched the fish?
No, different trip, totally different trip.
Was it before or after the fish punching?
That was revenge. After. That was revenge for almost getting eaten by the piranha. So the fish punching gave you too much
confidence, and you decided, I'll take these guys on because I can punch them. Worst comes to worst, I'll punch them.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's try to get you guys out of here. So I guess that game was awesome. By the way, that was a lot of fun. Thank you guys for doing that. To wrap us up here, what are you currently working on that people should keep an eye out for in the near future, or anything else you would like to know? Starting with whoever.
Still have to answer intelligent questions. This
is bullshit.
Oh, sober up quick.
I'm not going first on this one. I'm like, this is actually one I can answer as well, because I've spent ages waiting to talk about stuff that I'm doing, and now I actually can because it's finished. Yay.
Because you have the best title in Indie SFF right now.
Boner.
My sequel is finally ready. It is currently out with readers who are doing early reviews for me. So I have a cover reveal, which is going live on Friday the 25th of March. Oh. And then after that, it will be available for pre-order on Amazon. And then after that, it will go into full launch. I have to keep checking my date plan. It goes full launch on April the 21st. So first book is We Men of Ash and Shadow. Second book is The Hand That Cast the Bone. So if you haven't read the first one yet, now is a really good time to buy it, because you'll have time to get fully up to date with what's going on with the characters, and then you can get straight on and buy the second one. So, yeah.
Sure.
How long was the first one, Holly?
Say again?
How long was the first book again?
The first book is, I believe, oh God, I've got to try to think. It's about 296 pages, so it's quite a short.
It's like an 8 or 9 hour audiobook, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm trying to pick new audiobooks to keep reading, so I might just grab it to make sure I'm up to date for the second one. That'd be cool. All right, cool.
What do you have a release, any sort of expected release date for the audiobook for the sequel? Is that the same
started, didn't he?
Yeah, RJ's working on it at the moment.
Yeah.
He's started recording, so I believe that he's going to be putting up some links and things to some kind of preview. So hopefully it will be certainly a matter of a few weeks after the book comes out, if not at around the same time. So,
okay.
Awesome.
Thomas?
Yes, I am currently working on the sequel to We Break Immortals, another Chunky book. I'm also working on a much shorter book that is set in the same world, but involving different characters at a different time period, and kind of flipping the script a little bit, whereas in We Break Mortals, it's following some characters who are hunting and tracking and hunting down illegal, rogue sorcerers who are doing terrible things. This kind of flips the script and looks at a group of mercenaries with hearts of gold who are hired to try to kill the legal sorcerers, the ones who make themselves go through the hoops to get legal, but maybe they're friends of powerful people, and so they still get away with doing crime just because we still exist in a world where the powers that be can make things happen for their friends to get them out of jams. And so it's going to follow this group of people and a young character who's trying to make his way in the world, joining this group, that they're simultaneously having to go after a legal sorcerer, but also dodge the actual authorities who would be trying to prevent them. And I'm also working on a novella, taking place in the same world, that just centered around one of the tools that the magic tracers use, these render tracers. Somebody finding that, and then a world opening up before them that causes all kinds of mayhem and terror because they can suddenly see what they weren't able to see before.
Very cool. Very cool.
But no set release dates or I do have working titles, but no set release dates. But I'm still confident that I'm going to get them all this year.
Oh wow, cool.
Wow, Thomas, that's ambitious. I'm tired just thinking about it.
All right, Krystle, what are you working on currently, or is there anything you'd like to promote?
So I'm working on Legacy of Brick and Bone. So that's the sequel to Legacy of the Bright Wash. And it's sitting with my sensitivity reader right now, who is absolutely amazing, and he's going to push me in some really good directions. And then I'm hoping to get it out this year, but it's big, so it takes a while. And then we have the Paperweight Watch, which is finished and ready for the anthology, which is Alchemy of Sorrow with Virginia McLean and some really incredible writers.
I cannot wait for.
Yes, I saw you. Yeah.
I want my hardcover.
Yeah, they're going to do some special edition hardcovers through the Broken Binding, and that one was really emotional to go through because the theme is grief, and so it was really heavy to write. But then all of us coming together to make this happen was very very cathartic. Like even in grief, we could come together and make something that was joyful. And I'm really proud of how it's going. And I'm very excited for people to see the art for it. And then I'm also working on a novella called Coyote, which takes place from the point of view from a character that comes from Brick and Bone. And for anyone that's read Bright Wash, he was inside the breeding program. And so it's going to be dark and it's going to be heavy because this is the stuff that, people were asking about wanting to know more of, but it's called the breeding program. It's not a happy time. So I'm hoping that will come out early next year, but we'll see.
Yeah, Ryan. What are you working on? What would you like to promote?
So working on currently, I have my novella, The Exile, is due out probably the end of April now. It's going through beta reads. Half of them are back already, although I only sent them out 2 days ago and I sent it for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They're back, which is great. Really, really good. So that's due out in about 2 weeks' time. And then also the third book in the series, I'm hoping it's set for December pre-order on Amazon. Just to give me a little bit of space in case life happens. Which it tends to. Yeah. So I'm currently, I have myself set. I'm currently have a fucking target for about 4,000 or 5,000 words a day now going to try and meet all these and to get them out and then have the fourth book by January or so. So just that's the plan as we're going. But the most recent one, not most recent, the one that's coming soon, my brain is fogged from whiskey. It's going to be The Exile, so that's at the end of April, hopefully. And Krystle, you have a small child.
Yeah, she can't hear you. You can say whatever you want.
Awesome. Looking forward to all of your sequels. I'm looking forward to reading Krystle's book. Krystle's book is the only one here that I haven't read, just because it's huge, and I've been reading the Drake Immortals.
It's smaller than Thomas's. I'm personally offended.
Is it?
It's it is. So his is 300,000. Mine is 220,000.
Oh, okay.
So it's smaller, dude. You can do it. It's okay.
All right. Right on. Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate reading your work. It's definitely, I'm many people, but it's definitely brought us many, many hours of enjoyment and just wonderful escapism from, the shitty things in life, And so having that there is a huge, huge thing for us. So thank you for all the writing that you do. I'm going to wrap us up here by saying, thank you guys for coming on today. This has been absolutely so much fun. I mean, I feel bad you guys have been here for 3 hours now, but this was seriously this was
helps.
Yeah, the whiskey helps.
This is the issue with writing being full-time. is I'm doing this now, and then my brain just went, fuck. I've 3 hours of no writing time there. That's actually my job.
Well, and now you're drunk, so how good is your writing? We make,
Seriously,
you know,
thank you.
this is our career, but you guys, like, we 100% recognize that podcasters and reviewers and readers, you guys are doing this out of your love for books.
I don't know how much personal time Gabe had to give up to come up with that line.
Oh, it was a rough night.
What if I'm stuck?
Can't be going.
Exactly.
No, we absolutely love doing this, and for us, having you guys on and being able to talk about your books and stuff is just like, it's amazing. Like we love doing it, and to be able to talk to you guys on Twitter, let alone, you know, have you guys come hang out for 3 hours is like
for your birthday.
mind blowing for us. Like, yeah. So you know, it's
Happy
phenomenal
birthday.
for us.
Sorry,
thank you.
Also, I had no idea it was your birthday. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Be open with it, Thomas. Don't you listen?
No, I mean, before he said that,
Yeah.
before he said it today, I had no idea that today was going to be his birthday. We didn't have a chance to go into it because Ryan was off like right away.
I didn't even know he was bored.
It's hard to find a way to break in to acknowledge it.
Yeah, we'll have to have all you guys on for like individual interviews, especially right now I'm finishing We Break Immortals and Hand That Cast the Bone, so we'll have to have you guys on after I get through those. All right, I guess the only thing left to say is we're going to wrap it up there, listeners. Thank you so much for joining us for this chat with these amazing authors. Be sure to check out their books and follow them on Twitter. I'll have their links down below in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe and join us next week as we continue our Night Angel trilogy reread and month of collaborations with Sam from the Shellfish with Sam blog. Thanks again for watching. Buy these guys' books, and we'll see you in the next video.
That's shellfish or shellfish?